Chapter 587. Nangong Zuf frowned and tried to salvage the situation. She stopped clashing head-on with Li Tianhua and tried to use techniques to obtain victory. However, it was already too late. Nangong Ziyue had already lost the initiative. Li Tianhua had already grasped the rhythm of the match. It was not something she could change. In the end, Nangong Ziyue could only stake everything on one throw. She punched with her incomplete state and executed the immortal mountains and rivers, trying to decide victory in one move. Twin dragons playing with a pearl. Li Tianhua smiled faintly. Victory was in his grasp, so he executed the best move of the coiling dragon spear technique. The tip of the spear trembled and sent out two spear lights. They turned into two ferocious coiling dragons and clashed with Nangong Ziyue's fists. The coiling dragons roared ferociously, and the incomplete state of mountains and rivers shattered. Nangong Ziyue took 10 steps back and helplessly admitted defeat. A golden light flashed and snatched away some of Nangong Ziyue's luck. Li Tianhua's golden dragon also broke out of the jade. It was 25 meters long. Its luck was also at the peak. 50th match, Xiao Chun versus Baijian. This was the last match of the 13th round, as well as the last match of the day. It was finally Xiao Chen's turn to fight. Furthermore, his opponent was someone he was familiar with. When Xiao Chun saw Baijian walk up to the dueling ring, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Then, he walked up the dueling ring with heavy steps. Baijian felt very complicated in his heart. Originally, he thought that after merging ice and fire, he would be able to defeat Xiao Chun and wash away his previous humiliation. Who knew? Xiao Chun's improvement was even greater than his. Even Gong Yangyu lost to Xiao Chun. Gong Yangyu was much stronger than Baijian. Even though Baijian felt somewhat dissatisfied, he had to admit this fact. Right now, Xiao Chun was stronger than Baijian. Furthermore, Xiao Chun was not just stronger by 1 or 2 levels. However, when Baijian saw Xiao Chun ascend the dueling ring, the dissatisfaction in his eyes immediately vanished. He smiled and said, "Xiao Chun, congratulations. You have obtained consecutive victories and have not lost a single match. It looks like you will definitely make it into the top 10. Maintaining his silence, Xiao Chen's killing intent brewed in his heart. Crystallized Yuan Qi, which was like a solid substance, wandered around his body. All kinds of killing moves could be launched at any time. The smile on Baijian's face became even wider as he continued. Unfortunately, no matter how strong you are, you will not be able to protect your friends. After 100 battles, your friends Kim Tae-ho, Bai Murong Chong, Ding Feng Cho, and Chu Mu will meet me. Their end will be as terrible as Zhuomo's. All of this is because of you. Because of you, Xiao Chun, they ended up like this. Because you offended me, none of them will have a good ending." Since he could not hurt Baijian, he vented his anger on Baijian's friends. Baijian did not care about his identity as a genius at all. Such a character was no different from scum. The killing intent in Xiao Chen's heart was monstrous. He said coldly, "Are you done?" Seeing that Xiao Chun was angry, Baijian's smile became even crazier. "Ha ha ha ha. What's wrong? Are you angry and want to hit me? Unfortunately, you cannot do so. You can only watch as your friends get tortured by me, one by one. I admit defeat." However, before I could say the word admit defeat, Baijian cried out miserably and failed to admit defeat. It was Xiao Chun who made his move. The instant he spoke, he executed the lightning evasion. An electric light flashed, and he arrived before Baijian. Xiao Chen's vital qi surged as he executed the berserk dragon fist on Baijian's chest. He swallowed the last word he wanted to say. In the wind cloud platform, after one side admitted defeat, the other side had to stop attacking. This was a hard and fast rule. No one could break it, not even Sima Lingxian. This was Baijian's plan. He wanted to admit defeat and infuriate Xiao Chun. Even if he could not defeat him, he wanted to disgust him. However, Baijian had not expected Xiao Chun to have such a strange magic technique. Xiao Chun appeared before Baijian in an instant. Baijian did not have much time to think. He moved his hands, wanted to force Xiao Chun back temporarily and then admit defeat. A cold wind gathered on his left hand, and a surging flame appeared on his right hand. This was Bai Zhan's signature move, the icy flame palm. One was ice and one was fire. When the cold and heat alternated, the opponent would feel extremely uncomfortable. Even cultivators stronger than Bai Zhan would have to be cautious when dealing with such a situation. Breaking armor. Seizing the heart, Xiao Chun clenched his right fist and executed the breaking armor stance. A sharp azure shockwave with the breaking armor attribute scattered Bai Zhan's icy flame palm like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. Xiao Qin's left hand formed a claw and executed the seizing the heart. An azure dragon claw appeared on his 5 fingers and shattered the icy flame palm that Bai Zhan sent out. With boundless killing intent, Xiao Qin clawed at Bai Zhan's chest. If Xiao Chun managed to get close to him, Bai Zhan would die without a doubt. He would not even have the chance to speak. Bai Zhan's complexion paled, and he felt a great panic in his heart. At this critical moment, he performed exceptionally well. He pressed his palms together, and the ice and raging fire essence in his body quickly merged. As the cold wind howled on the vast wind cloud platform, it actually blew out a hurricane containing flames. Ice and fire merged perfectly. Wave of raging ice flames. With a roar, Bai Qi's hands moved up and down, forming a right angle. The ice and fire energy beams intertwined and shot toward Xiao Chun. Bai Zhan did not hope to injure Xiao Chun with this move. He only hoped to delay him for a few seconds, giving him the opportunity to admit defeat. However, he was disappointed. Xiao Chun did not give him any chance. His right hand was on the hilt of his saber. Xiao Chun unleashed his peak, small perfection saber intent. The crystal essence surging in his body gushed out with his saber. Xiao, with the support of the saber intent, the incredibly sharp crystal saber chi became even sharper. With a cassier sound, the saber chi easily chopped the ice and fire shockwaves in half. Furthermore, it was extremely accurate, right at the point where the ice and fire merged. The crystal-like electricity leaped around the saber chi. It broke through Bai Zhan's protective essence and left a horrifying wound on his chest. It was so deep that bones could be seen. A strong lightning-attributed essence entered the wound and poured into Bai Zhan's meridians, causing them to explode. Under Xiao Qin's saber strike, without holding back, Bai Zhan's meridians ruptured. He was in unbearable pain. Bai Zhan rolled on the ground as he screamed. He could not even form a complete sentence. Xiao Chun had already placed Bai Zhan on the list of people he had to kill. However, he could not make a move now. Otherwise, he might bring trouble to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in the future. Bai Zhan's meridians were crippled. Even if he had spirit pills and immortal medicines, he would not be able to recover his strength in a short time. He would not be able to threaten Xiao Qin's friends. If Bai Zhan was unlucky and could not find a spirit pill to treat his meridians, he would be crippled for life. Normally, Xiao Chun looked very peaceful, not saying a word. He rarely got angry and rarely killed people. However, dragons had reverse scales. If one touched them, one would die. Xiao Chun had a reverse scale as well. Whoever dared to threaten his friends and family would suffer a blow 100-fold or even 1,000-fold. No matter who it was, regardless of whether they were a super genius or a great sect backing them, Xiao Chun would not hold back. Xiao, the jade pendant at Bai Zhan's waist shot out a beam of golden light and entered Xiao Qin's jade pendant. The golden dragon, which had been impatient for a long time, immediately broke out of the jade pendant and circled above his head. The golden dragon was 15 meters long. Aside from Bai Qi and Sima Lingxian, it was no weaker than the geniuses of the other 8 noble clans. Xiao Chun sensed for a while and discovered that the golden dragon above his head seemed to be affecting his mind unconsciously. It swept away the fatigue and exhaustion of the day, replenishing his essence, qi, and spirit. The size of the golden dragon was not surprising to Xiao Chun. However, this additional function gave Xiao Chun a pleasant surprise. How surprising! Xiao Qin's golden dragon is 15 meters long. This is his first time participating in the five-nation youth competition. He did not obtain any luck before this. Could it be that Xiao Chun really has the strength to fight against the 8 noble clans? He is just a disciple of a small sect in the Great Qi Nation. The difference between him and the 8 noble clans is too big. That might not be impossible. Think about it. From the start until now, Xiao Chun has not lost a single match in the elimination rounds or the ranking battles. He has not lost a single match or drawn a single match. He has a winning streak. Those who were thought to be able to end him always ended up losing to him in the end. His trump cards are endless. It seems like he can't use them all. There is no way to figure them out. Of those newcomers, even Chu Chaoyan and Xianyuan Jiantian, they all drew a match, ending their winning streaks. The only one with a winning streak from the start until now is Xiao Chun. That is indeed the case. I did not think about it earlier. Now that I think about it, it seems like he is the only one with a winning streak from the start until now. After all, the seeded contestants only joined midway. They do not have as many consecutive victories as Xiao Chun. The first day of the ranking battles ended with Xiao Chun's golden dragon breaking out of the jade. This final battle allowed everyone to see Xiao Chun in a new light, the contestant with the most consecutive victories among the younger generation. The long night finally passed amidst everyone's fervent anticipation. When the morning sun rose, the 14th round of the competition officially began. As the rounds progressed, many more golden dragons broke out of the jade among the 100 contestants. Several dozen golden dragons flew around in the air. Occasionally, they roared ferociously, baring their fangs and claws as they fought with each other. Slowly, Xiao Chun discovered some patterns. If the opponent's golden dragon was stronger, the more luck he absorbed. If the opponent was weaker, the amount of luck he absorbed would be negligible. For example, Sima Lingxian was simply too strong. The other contestants' golden dragons were all weaker than his. Furthermore, he did not meet any strong opponents. As a result, his golden dragon remained at about 25 meters, growing by less than a quarter. On the other hand, the golden dragons of the other noble clan disciples increased significantly. Li Tian, Wang Quan, and Yu Chenxi's golden dragons reached 23 meters. Xianyuan Jiantian's and Chu Chaoyan's golden dragons also reached 25 meters. They were only slightly behind the noble clan disciples and would soon catch up. The one who caught up the fastest was Bai Qi. After defeating a few strong opponents, his golden dragon was already 23 meters long, only 3 meters behind Sima Lingxian's. Sima Lingxian smiled faintly and did not care. His goal was a 33-meter-long golden dragon. He wanted to reach the prime rank and obtain overwhelming luck, becoming the only true dragon in the Sky Dome realm. No matter how these people caught up, they would all end up benefiting him in the end. They would all be defeated by him and hand over their share of luck. The 35th match, Xiao Chun versus Fang Yunfei. This was the 25th round of the competition. In the earlier matches, Xiao Chun had not met with any strong opponents. Although he won all of them, his golden dragon only grew to 15 meters. He was still some distance away from the top geniuses. Chapter 588. Fang Yunfei was a personal disciple of the Divine Saber Gate. His saber techniques were superb as well. He had obtained a significant amount of luck. His golden dragon was more than 10 meters long. Fang Yunfei was the strongest competitor that Xiao Chun had met. If he could obtain the other party's luck, his golden dragon would increase significantly. Fang Yunfei was tall and sturdy, with a stocky back and a stocky waist. However, the thing that looked even sturdier was the huge saber in his hand. That saber was nearly as tall as he was, and it was not even as wide as a palm. It was made of 81 types of rare ores. Not only was it sharp, but it was also very tough. It weighed more than 400 kilograms. Just by looking at this weapon, one could tell that Fang Yunfei's saber techniques were firm and ferocious. He used his strength to suppress others and obtain victory. Xiao Chun, I have a request. Can you not use saber intent and exchange moves with me? As long as you do not use saber intent, no matter the result, I will admit defeat. After Fang Yunfei went up, he made a request that everyone found strange. There was a fervent light in his eyes as he eagerly hoped that Xiao Chan would agree. As long as you agree, I will immediately go and tell the referee. I only want a fair fight with you, a fight between bladesmen. I guarantee that my saber techniques will not disappoint you. In a fight between bladesmen, if one side comprehended saber intent and the other did not, the bladesman would suffer a great disadvantage. In a situation of the same cultivation, there was no chance of victory. Hence, Fang Yunfei made this request. Seeing the silent Xiao Chun, Fang Yunfei waited anxiously. Fang Yunfei was a straightforward person and did not like to speak. He would say whatever was on his mind and did not like to beat around the bush. I have not met such a person in a long time. Xiao Chun sighed in his heart. Fang Yunfei did not seek victory, but the process of the fight. As a bladesman as well, Fang Yunfei admired Xiao Chen's strength. He wanted to have a fair fight with Xiao Chun, using the intense battle to make up for the shortcomings of his saber techniques. Compared to Fang Yunfei, Xiao Chun was more anxious. After the ranking battle started, he only thought about how to increase his luck. A ripple appeared in his unchanging mental state. Even he himself did not notice it. Xiao Chun startled to his senses. He performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Thank you for thinking so highly of me. In that case, I will not use saber intent. Let's have a fair fight. You don't have to make any promises. If you win, I, Xiao Chun, can also afford to lose." As soon as he said that, the entire audience felt that it was strange. This was the final ranking battle. Winning or losing a match would affect one's final ranking. The difference in rank and the amount of luck obtained would affect a cultivator's entire life. This was not an elimination round, where one could fight a tacit battle like Xianyuan Zhantian and Chu Chaoyun and end up with a draw. That would not affect one's points in the ranking matches. Is this Xiao Chen crazy? Fang Yunfei's luck is abundant. The golden dragon is more than 4 feet long. If he wins, his golden dragon will immediately catch up to Wang Quan and the others. That is not all. If he loses, the losses will be even worse. If the strong lose to the weak, the golden dragon will decrease significantly. Fang Yunfei is not weak either. The accumulations of the Divine Saber Gate are not something the Heavenly Saber Pavilion can compare to. If he does not use saber intent, it will be hard to say who will win. All the cultivators in the spectator stands could not understand. In a battle between bladesmen, if one side had saber intent, the final victory would be decided. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chun did not intend to use saber intent. At this crucial moment, he gave up on a victory that was within his grasp. Did he not consider the consequences of losing? A complicated expression flashed in Fang Yunfei's eyes. He said sullenly, "Great Ji Nation's Divine Saber Gate, Fang Yunfei, I will ask for your guidance." Xiao. After Fang Yunfei spoke, he held his huge saber with one hand. His stout body burst out with explosive energy. It was like a clump of flames that had been stored for a long time burst out at this moment, causing the air to surge. Fire Cloud, Saber Technique. Fang Yunfei roared ferociously and red fiery essence condensed on his huge saber. Clumps of fiery red clouds materialized behind him, giving him a majestic aura. The wind blew, the clouds moved with the wind, gathering wind and cloud. Xiao Chun instantly executed the starting stance of a lightning tribulation saber technique. A strong wind blew and clouds gathered in the surroundings as he drew the lunar shadow saber in his hand. Bang! The sabers clashed. Two completely different but incomparably strong energies clashed. Intense sparks flew in all directions. As the wind blew, it turned into a myriad of colors. Without the support of saber intent, Xiao Chun could not force his opponent back with one saber strike. After all, his opponent walked the path of ferociousness. He was good at clashing head-on. Xiao Chun could only move slowly, slowly gathering his momentum. Dang! 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 The two of them did not take a step back. As their saber lights danced around, they quickly attacked each other. All sorts of energy exploded in the air. It was very intimidating. Flames surged endlessly along with the storm. The two of them moved faster and faster. In a short time, they had exchanged more than 200 moves. The cultivators in the spectator stands could only see two blurry figures, an unending chain of saber lights, flames, and lightning clashing with each other. Boundless sea of fire. Fang Yunfei finished gathering his momentum. After he took 10 steps back, he materialized a hazy sea of fire. It carried a surging heat wave and infused it into his saber technique. Then, he used the ethereal and formless state of clouds to supplement it. Everywhere the saber light passed, there seemed to be fiery images everywhere. Between the real and the fake, the real and the fake. As a genius bladesman himself, Bai Qi paid a lot of attention to the two's match. When he saw Fang Yunfei's move, he nodded slightly and said, "Not bad." He knows that he cannot truly achieve the boundless sea of fire. He uses the ethereal and formless state of the clouds to create the illusion of a boundless sea of fire. However, he still managed to bring out his momentum. Let's see how Xiao Chen deals with this. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up as he scanned the area with his spiritual sense. With one glance, he discovered the true location of Fang Yunfei's attack. Lightning light chop. An intense electric light burst out from the clouds above and gathered on the saber's edge. It formed a dazzling and resplendent saber light as it descended from the sky and clashed with Fang Yunfei's extraordinary boundless sea of fire. As the electric light exploded, the sea of fire in the surroundings shone brightly. The illusionary fiery images vanished like smoke. Fang Yunfei revealed his true appearance in the sea of fire. Earthly lightning tribulation. After breaking his opponent's saber technique in one move, Xiao Chun finally brought the lightning tribulation saber technique's power of wind and cloud to its peak. An electric whirlpool formed, and the true lightning tribulation descended. The lightning-attributed energy stored in the ground quickly surged towards the saber's edge, resonating with the thunderclouds above. This was the rage of thunder. The might of this attack far surpassed Fang Yunfei's expectations. After he received it head-on, his right hand, which held the huge saber, trembled slightly as if his entire hand had gone numb. Heavenly lightning tribulation. Xiao Chun, who was in the air, turned around. His white robes fluttered in the wind and lightning. He looked like a god of thunder as he roared ferociously. The rage of the heavens descending a lightning tribulation, destroying everything. The merciless nature of the great Tao was perfectly infused into Xiao Chen's saber technique. Fang Yunfei, who was on the ground, felt fear in his heart. It was as if he had really angered the heavens and they wanted to destroy him with a lightning tribulation. No, I cannot be affected by his aura. Otherwise, I will die for sure. Fang Yunfei shook his head violently and forcefully dispelled the fear in his heart. There was a xiao sound, and boundless flames soared up from the ground. The image of a flaming giant appeared behind him. That giant was like a holy spirit, fighting against the heavens, not fearing the heavenly might. It gathered Fang Yunfei's aura once again. The flaming figure merged with the flaming figure and sent out a long, diagonal flaming saber chi. A heat wave surged out, burning even space. "Break!" Carrying the rage of the heavens, Xiao Chun shouted, and a ferocious electric light appeared on his saber. It looked like golden snakes dancing wildly as it shot out. The electric light instantly tore apart the diagonal, flaming saber chi. Its momentum did not diminish, and it blasted the image behind Fang Yunfei into countless sparks. The saber slid down, and Xiao Chun swung it ferociously. That huge saber, which weighed more than 200 kilograms, flew out gently, giving the impression that it was a piece of wood floating in the air. Dang! However, when the saber landed on the ground, it gave off a loud sound, correcting everyone's misconceptions. As a bladesman, he could not even hold his saber properly. This was a very embarrassing thing. However, Fang Yunfei knew that if Xiao Chun had not pulled back earlier, he would have been the one flying. That would have been even more embarrassing. Fang Yunfei revealed a bitter smile and said, "The difference is too great. Even without saber intent, your saber technique far surpasses mine. There should be one more move after the heavenly lightning tribulation, right?" Xiaoqian nodded and said, "That's right. There is still the divine lightning tribulation after that." Fang Yunfei sighed softly. "The rage of the heavens is already so horrifying. I wonder what the rage of the deities will be like. Many thanks for the lesson. I've lost." Fang Yunfei immediately admitted defeat and stopped fighting. Xiaoqian's 50-meter-long golden dragon in the sky immediately swooped down and swallowed up Fang Yunfei's golden dragon. As the light flickered, Xiaoqian's golden dragon quickly grew to 25 meters, rejoining the ranks of the top contenders. He won again. Unexpectedly, he did not use saber intent to defeat Fang Yunfei. Doesn't that mean that with saber intent, he would only need one move to defeat Fang Yunfei? The people in the spectator stands started discussing in soft voices. They felt that Xiaoqian's strength was even more unfathomable. It was like they would never know how strong he was. The might of the lightning tribulation is not great. I can use the summer saber technique to break it easily. I am not afraid of the heavenly lightning tribulation either. I can use the power of the autumn wind to sweep through the world and break it. If it is just these two moves, I might not even need to use the four-season saber technique. However, the divine lightning tribulation that did not appear at the end is something to be wary of. Since the start of the competition, regardless of whether Bai Qi was willing or not, Xiaoqian was already an unavoidable opponent in his path to the top three. Carrying the 25-meter-long golden dragon, Xiaoqian walked off the wind cloud platform with his head held high. As the golden dragon roared, it filled him with vigor. He quickly replenished his exhausted essence. The competition continued day by day. By the third day, 60 of the 100 rounds had already been completed. Based on the golden dragons above the contenders' heads, the crowd could roughly tell who was stronger. After 60 rounds, they concluded that there were 8 giants in this 5-nation youth competition. They were Sima Lingxian, Bai Qi, Li Tianhua, Wang Quan, Yu Qinxi, Xianyuan Zhantian, Xiaoqian, and Chu Chaoyan. The first 4 were disciples of the 8 noble clans. The last 4 had different backgrounds. The monopoly of the 8 noble clans had been completely broken. This was because the remaining 4 had each lost 1 or 2 out of the 60 rounds. However, these 8 people had not lost a single match. All of them won. Their golden dragons were at least 23 meters long. Chapter 589. In a situation where everyone had the same number of matches, they had already lost 1 or 2 matches before the very end. The remaining 4 people of the noble clan had already lost their qualifications to fight for the top 8. Due to the intentional arrangements of the organizers, the 8 giants did not meet each other in advance. As the competition went on, the strong became stronger and the weak became weaker. The situation became more and more obvious. The strong cultivators had golden dragons circling above their heads. For example, Sima Lingxian was already 25 meters long. He was only 1 meter away from reaching the peak and obtaining all the luck of the 4 dragon veins. As for the weak cultivators like Murong Chong, they had very little dragon chi in the first place. Not only could their golden dragons not break out of their jade pendants, but their luck would also be stolen. The little golden dragon in the jade pendant no longer had any luster. It was no different from a real earthworm. All the geniuses under the starry heavens gathered in the 5-nation youth competition. Who was the true dragon and who was the false dragon would be revealed at this moment. No matter what pride one brought, no matter where one came from, this place did not care about one's background or clan. It only cared about the sword in one's hand and the saber in one's hand. Whoever was strong would obtain luck. If one was weak, they would be stolen by other geniuses, weakening their luck. Even the people of the 8 noble clans were no exception. The 49th match, Noble Clans Bai Qi versus Nangong Ziyue. At this moment, the sun was setting in the west. It looked like it would soon turn dark. After this match, the competition for today would probably end. Nangong Ziyue had only lost 2 matches since the start of the competition. The first was in the elimination round, where she lost to Yu Chenxi. The second was in the ranking matches, where she lost to another noble clan disciple, Li Tianhua. However, the 2 matches were not one-sided. Furthermore, her opponents were not ordinary cultivators. Although she had lost 2 matches, the crowd did not underestimate her strength. They felt that she could still fight for the top 10. The golden dragon above Nangong Ziyue's head was 23 meters long, slightly shorter than the golden dragons of the 8 giants. Xiao Baiqi leaped off his spectator stand and landed on the arena. The golden dragon, circling in the sky, descended and hovered above Baiqi's head. The 20-meter-long golden dragon bared its fangs and claws as it glared at Nangong Ziyue's clearly smaller golden dragon. Under the pressure of its aura, Nangong Ziyue's golden dragon cowered, not daring to be impudent. When Baijian saw this scene, he smiled gently and said amiably, "Nangong Ziyue, you are not a match for me. You should just admit defeat and preserve your strength for the next matches." Nangong Ziyue frowned slightly and said sullenly, "We will know if it is true or not after we fight. Li Tianhua defeated me only because his state countered mine. Do you really think that I am someone you can defeat easily?" Baiqi's expression was neither happy nor angry. He said calmly, "Then make your move. As for Li Tianhua, I have never considered him an opponent." Walala, the sound of flowing water rang out quietly, and the artistic conception of mountains and rivers quietly appeared. Among the overlapping mountains, a river flowed smoothly. Nangong Ziyue stood on the flowing water, drifting with the waves. Her legs did not move, but the mountains moved behind her. Nangong Ziyue's graceful figure gave off a gentle charm. She hid the artistic conception of mountains and rivers in her heart as she moved quickly towards Bai Shuehe in a strange manner. Mountain and river hiding the heart. At the start of this round, Nangong Ziyue had not been able to execute it naturally and smoothly. She could only unleash it at the crucial moment. However, after a few rounds, she had become increasingly familiar with this mountain and river hiding the heart. If Nangong Ziyue ran into Yu Chenxi again, the victor would be hard to predict. This was also why Nangong Ziyue dared to challenge Bai Shuehe. Bang! When Nangong Ziyue arrived before Baijian, the calm and natural Nangong Ziyue suddenly made a move. When she punched, the power of mountains and rivers that had been brewing in her heart for a long time erupted. The fist wind surged and space trembled. The might of this ordinary punch actually contained half the might of Nangong Ziyue's trump card, the mountain and river-breaking fist. Baiqi was slightly stunned. His expression was somewhat astonished. He had not expected Nangong Ziyue to have improved so much in such a short period of time. If Nangong Ziyue continued to preserve her strength, she would have to put in more effort to defeat her opponent. Never mind, I have already come this far. It is time to use the 4-season saber technique. Nangong Ziyue is now qualified to use it. After Baiqi made up his mind, he slowly placed his right hand on his saber's hilt and circulated the first move of the 4-season saber technique. Splash! Splash! Something strange happened. The clear sound of flowing water came from behind Baiqi. When he drew his saber, the power of the cycle of seasons surged out. Suddenly, the distance between him and Nangong Ziyue lengthened. No matter how fast Nangong Ziyue was, she could not catch up to Baiqi's punch, which could shatter mountains. Nangong Ziyue remained 1 meter away from Baiqi. The fist wind caused his clothes and hair to flutter continuously. Xiao! When Baiqi drew his saber completely, the power of the cycle of seasons erupted. The distance between Baiqi and Nangong Ziyue immediately widened. It was not that Baiqi retreated. Instead, it was that the power of the cycle of seasons shattered the power of mountains and rivers that Nangong Ziyue had been building up in her heart for a long time. Thus, her punch broke on its own. Leisurely spring water, suddenly warm, then cold. A river flowed down from the horizon. The water was clear and ethereal. Baiqi hacked at Nangong Ziyue with a saber. taking the state of spring water and containing the power of the cycle of seasons. A river-like saber, Qi quickly flew at Nangong Ziwe, changing between warm and cold. Amid the mountains and rivers, Nangong Ziwe felt a huge saber Qi carrying the power of the cycle of seasons sweeping over, increasing the pressure on her. That saber Qi was as warm as jade at one moment and bone-chilling in the next. It was hard to fathom. As Nangong Ziwe hesitated, she did not know how to break this move. No matter what trick he played, it was just a strand of saber Qi. Immortal mountains and rivers. Break for me. Nangong Ziwe could not guess whether the saber intent was hot or cold. She directly materialized the power of mountains and rivers. One punch was a mountain, the other a river. The mountains and rivers froze, preparing to use force to break technique. Bang! When the saber Qi arrived, it was like the heavenly river flowed in reverse. The power of the world surged over. Nangong Ziwe's expression immediately changed. She wanted to use force to break technique. However, she was horrified to discover that the energy contained in this saber Qi was much stronger than her immortal mountains and rivers. She could not clash head-on with it. When the state of her fist shattered, Nangong Ziwe vomited a mouthful of blood. She used the power of mountains and rivers to quickly retreat among the mountains and rivers, resolving the energy contained in the saber Qi. Rumble! Rumble! Instantly, waves surged and the mountains trembled. The energy contained in the saber Qi was very strong. Just the remnant waves caused the mysterious phenomenon of mountains and rivers that Nangong Ziwe materialized to show signs of instability. Is this the power of the four-season saber technique? How strong? Unexpectedly, it nearly broke Nangong Ziwe's entire state of mountains and rivers in one move. Only Nangong Ziwe can continue. When the other cultivators encountered this saber strike, any state they had would crumble immediately. Earlier, he broke Nangong Ziwe's attack in half a move. The moment he drew his saber, Nangong Ziwe's attack crumbled. Based on this Bai Qi is even stronger than Li Tianhua. In this five-nation youth competition, he is the person most likely to defeat Sima Lingxian. The other noble clan disciples are no match for him. When the many cultivators in the spectator stands saw this startling saber strike, the four-season saber technique that they had been waiting for finally appeared. Everyone's hearts immediately surged. Their faces flushed red, and their emotions surged. You're still not willing to admit defeat. Bai Qi frowned slightly, appearing somewhat angry. His saber trembled slightly, and a misty saber intent started accumulating. He said sullenly, 18 heaven-breaking saber strikes. First saber strike, second saber strike, third saber strike, fourth saber strike. Bai Qi stood rooted to the ground, not moving at all. Then, he executed another strong martial technique. As the saber light danced, a boundless light spread out. This was because the saber Qi was too dense, giving off a faint light. Bai Qi's peak, small perfection saber intent shot out together with the saber Qi towards the mountains that Nangong Ziwe materialized. Bang! 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 With the support of the saber intent, the might of the 18 heaven-breaking saber strikes reached its peak. Every time Bai Qi sent out a saber strike, a mountain peak would shatter. After the 18th saber strike, the mountains and rivers were all destroyed. The state of mountains and rivers that Nangong Ziwe was so proud of had been completely destroyed by Bai Qi in an extremely cruel manner, leaving nothing behind. The mountains could no longer be seen, and the rivers could no longer be seen. Only the boundless saber light and the misty saber intent remained, resounding in all directions. It was as Bai Qi had said before. As long as he chopped down the mountains and shattered the rivers, no matter how strong a state was, it would just be a decoration before absolute strength. Roar! When Nangong Ziwe was defeated, the golden dragon above her head cried out miserably. Bai Qi's golden dragon had devoured 1.5 meters of its length. Its luster dimmed significantly, and it looked weak and listless. On the other hand, the golden dragon above Bai Qi bared its fangs and brandished its claws, roaring ferociously. Its eyes were spirited, and its aura was very ferocious. It was now 25 meters long, catching up to Sima Lingxuan's 25 meters. As Xiao Chun recalled Bai Qi's four-season saber technique, he entered deep thought. This was different from what he had imagined. Originally, when Bai Qi learned the four-season saber technique, he would have comprehended it on his own. Now it looked like he was wrong. Bai Qi's path was the same as the Bai clan's ancestors. It was probably after Bai Shuehe successfully comprehended the four-season saber technique. He passed on his comprehensions and experiences to his descendants. Now that he had a rough idea, Xiao Chun muttered to himself, "If I follow the path of my predecessors, naturally, I will be able to take many detours, and it will be much easier." However, this four-season saber technique is different from other martial techniques. It does not have a fixed state. Comprehending it on one's own is the most suitable. Simply put, if Bai Qi only followed Bai Shue's path, he would lose miserably when he met Xiao Chun. There would not be any surprises. However, Lu Suifeng, who was at the side, was astonished. He was also a person who practiced the saber. He could feel the vast might of that leisurely spring water more clearly than others. He sighed and said, "What a strong saber technique." No wonder others say that the four-season saber technique is the strongest martial technique under heaven ranked. It truly lives up to its reputation. The surrounding elders of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion all nodded to themselves. Even if it were them, they would not be able to turn the situation around. They would only suffer a crushing defeat. Chapter 590. The first elder, Jiangqi, asked Xiao Chun, "How is your practice of the Lightning Tribulation Saber Technique's final move, Divine Lightning Tribulation?" Xiao Chun thought for a while before replying, "I do not dare to compare myself to the ancestor. However, I can still easily bring out 70 to 80% of its might." Jiangqi smiled and nodded. Then, he said with some regret, "The Lightning Tribulation Saber Technique was created by our sex ancestor. If you could comprehend the state of wind, the state of cloud, and the state of thunder, you might be able to compete with this Bai Qi." Haha. However, it is fine. Being able to enter the top 10 is the best result the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has achieved in the past few thousand years. Xiao Chun, don't be too depressed. Xiao Chun smiled gently and held the lunar shadow saber in his hand. He did not say anything. Match 50. Sima Lingxian versus Gong Yangyu. This was the 92nd round of the Five-Nation Youth Competition. This match was the final match of the day. The two participants from the previous Five-Nation Youth Competition would fight each other. This made everyone somewhat excited. Gong Yangyu is pretty strong. His golden dragon is 23 meters long. He has only lost 3 matches in the ranking matches. Even if he loses this match, he still has a high chance of getting into the top 10. I wonder how much of Sima Lingxuan's strength he can force out. Sima Lingxian has been winning too easily. Indeed, just his oppressive self-confidence is enough to make one feel suffocated. How can one have the confidence to fight him? Without a doubt, everyone could predict the result of this match. The only thing they were uncertain of was how much of Sima Lingxuan's strength Gong Yangyu could force out. After all, no matter what, Gong Yangyu's strength was clear for all to see. This was especially so for that tossing heaven and earth. It could even shatter space. Several giants did not dare to receive it head-on. How would Sima Lingxian deal with this move? In a wind cloud platform, Sima Lingxian wore long robes. There was not much expression on his handsome face. The self-confidence in his chest seemed to be one with the world. When one looked at him, there seemed to be a faint glow on his body. It flickered constantly. With one glance, one could tell that he was extraordinary. Under the pressure of Sima Lingxuan's confidence, Gong Yangyu took a deep breath and expelled the negative thoughts in his heart. Without saying anything more, he swung his black staff around and walked towards Sima Lingxian. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 7 steps. With every step Gong Yangyu took, an afterimage would appear on the ground. Each afterimage held the staff in a different posture. By the time Gong Yangyu finished taking 7 steps, his aura had already reached its peak. The pressure that Sima Lingxian gave Xiao Chun earlier was swept away. His gaze turned sharp as he swung his staff around like a dragon or snake dancing in the wind. This was Gong Yangyu's specialty, Everlasting Universe. By combining 7 ultimate attacks, he could suppress his opponent with absolute offensive power. Back then, even Xiao Chan didn't face this move head-on because its power was too great, and it wasn't worth it to face it head-on. Sima Lingxuan's expression remained calm as he looked at the staff strike that could shatter mountains. Then he took a step forward. One step, just one step, and the situation on the field was immediately turned around. A boundless strong wind blew from Sima Lingxian. The clouds in the sky churned endlessly. As the wind blew and the clouds churned, a vast state of kingship erupted from Sima Lingxuan's body and soared into the sky. Tyrannical, supreme, undefeatable, absolute. All sorts of auras of kingship came from Sima Lingxuan's body. Unexpectedly, the state he comprehended was the state of kingship. As the saying went, everything under the heavens belongs to the king. Unexpectedly, Sima Lingxian made this state of kingship his main state. After Gong Yangyu took 7 steps, the momentum of heaven and earth that he gathered was immediately suppressed by Sima Lingxuan's one gentle step. Kasie. Sima Lingxian grasped his sword hilt with his right hand and drew it. Riding on this momentum of kingship, he displayed his sharpness wantonly, giving off an undefeatable aura that could sweep through the world. The sword and staff clashed, and countless cracks immediately appeared on the wind cloud platform under the two. The two strong forces clashed continuously. Gong Yangyu clenched his teeth and endured. Unexpectedly, he did not retreat immediately. Wong, Wong, Wong. The tip of Sima Lingxuan's sword trembled, and a vast sword intent poured out. The might of this sword increased explosively. Gong Yangyu was instantly no match for it. He took 9 steps back and vomited a large mouthful of blood. Sovereign descending. Sima Lingxian shouted and took another step forward. The vast state of kingship was like an ancient mountain pressing down on Xiao Chun. When Sima Lingxian swung his sword, it was like a sovereign descending. The surrounding wind-attributed essence quickly surged towards the tip of the sword like it was paying homage to the king. With the boundless strong wind pouring in, this sword was unimaginably fast. Gong Yangyu could only rely on his senses to block with his staff across his chest. Bang! Gong Yangyu had just made his move and had yet to infuse his essence into a defensive stance when the sword struck his staff, splitting it in half. When the sword wind blew, Gong Yangyu flew backward like a broken kite. He crashed into the wind cloud barrier and bounced heavily before landing on the ground. Gong Yangyu knelt on one knee. Under his tattered clothes, horrifying sword wounds spread all over his chest. The sword intent hidden in the wounds had not faded yet. His wounds seemed to be growing more severe. Gong Yangyu knew that he had lost. He had barely managed to block 2 moves. The difference was too great. He smiled bitterly to himself. He did not know if there was anyone who could defeat him in this 5-nation youth competition. My skills are inferior. Gong Yangyu admits defeat. Gong Yangyu stood up and chose to admit defeat. Sima Lingxian sheathed his sword. After the golden dragon above his head swallowed for a while, it grew to 8 and 7 inches long. Now, it was less than half an inch long and would be 23 meters long. This is probably Sima Lingxuan's true strength. Unexpectedly, he comprehended the state of kingship from the state of wind and cloud, which is higher than any other attributed state. Compared to 3 years ago, Sima Lingxuan's strength has increased at a horrifying rate. I finally know why he is not afraid of the 4-season saber technique. When he executes a powerful sword technique with the state of kingship, it is sufficient to resist the power of the cycle of seasons. However, we will only know what will happen after they fight. The two of them have not used their full strength yet. The battle between the giants tomorrow will definitely be interesting to watch. However, I still favor Sima Lingxian. He has only revealed the tip of the iceberg. Bai Qi has revealed at least 60% of his strength. In the final match of this round, Sima Lingxian finally revealed the absolute strength of the top-seeded participant. Gong Yangyu, who was ranked in the top 10 of the previous Five-Nation Youth Competition, lost to Sima Lingxian in 2 moves, unable to resist at all. Li Tianhua looked at the golden dragon above Sima Lingxuan's head and shook his head. He smiled bitterly and said, "It is truly a tragedy to be in the same generation as him. It seems like all the stars in the sky are on his head. We are just supporting characters." Xianyuan Zhantian's unruly face revealed a grave expression. After a while, he smiled gently and said, "The state of kingship is really coincidental. The 92 rounds of matches were already over, but the 8 giants had not fought yet. In that case, in the final 8 rounds tomorrow, the 8 of them would have to fight each other. From the start of the ranking matches until now, the 8 giants had not lost a single match. Sima Lingxian, Li Tianhua, Bai Qi, Wang Quan, Chu Chaoyan, Xianyuan Zhantian, Yu Chenxi, and Xiao Chen were tied for first place. However, since ancient times, there had been no first place in literature and no second place in martial arts. How could there be a situation where 8 people were first? In the battle between the giants tomorrow, there would definitely be a victor and a loser among the 8. The True Dragon ranking would also be decided. Who could rank first and obtain the luck of the world, becoming the main character of this era? Before the sun set tomorrow, everything would come to an end. The Age of Geniuses would officially begin at that moment. The long night finally passed amidst the cheers of the crowd. The wind cloud platform was packed with people. Their voices were loud. Before the matches started, the atmosphere had already heated up. Everyone was waiting for the moment when the giants would fight. They were waiting for the moment when the true heroes reached the peak. They wanted to see who was the main character of this era. First match, Lu Xiaoyan versus Lin Fei. The first match of the 93rd round officially started. However, it was not the anticipated match between the giants, which disappointed everyone. However, the 2 people in the wind cloud platform were experts of their own domains. Their matches would not be boring. When facing the genius bladesman Lin Fei, Lu Xiaoyan did not get careless. He would not make the same mistake as he did against Chu Chaoyan. He used his full power from the start. A cold wind howled, and frost instantly covered the wind cloud platform. As Lu Xiaoyan sent out his sword intent, snowflakes drifted down. The various powerful techniques of the drifting snow sword sect were perfectly executed in Lu Xiaoyan's hands. At this moment, Lin Fei was much more mature than when he first started the Five-Nation Youth Competition. There was no longer any arrogance in Lin Fei's eyes. Instead, there was only seriousness and caution. He was clearly enduring. Dang, dang, dang. Saber lights shot out everywhere, and sword images filled the air. Sword chi and saber chi moved about wantonly. The strength that the 2 displayed was equal. In terms of saber intent and sword intent, they did not give way to each other. However, Lu Xiaoyan's state of ice was stronger than Lin Fei's state of earth. Based on the current situation, Lu Xiaoyan held a slight advantage. However, this was only temporary. Everyone knew that Lin Fei still had not used the Earth Vein Saber technique. If Lu Xiaoyan could block that unpredictable Earth Vein Saber technique, he would be confident of obtaining victory. If he could not block it, the victor would be hard to predict. Xiao, as the saber hummed, Lin Fei, who had been silent for a long time, finally found the most suitable opportunity to execute the Earth Vein Saber technique. A strand of cold saber chi exploded the ice on the ground and quickly headed for Lu Xiaoyan's chest. Lu Xiaoyan smiled gently, not flustered at all. He said, "I have been waiting for you for a long time." Absolute Ice Shadow Sword. The surrounding temperature plummeted. Lu Xiaoyan's upper body trembled. Before everyone's shocked gazes, he split into 2. 2 strands of sword light flickered. One blocked the attack from Lin Fei's main body, while the other blocked the saber chi shooting out from the ground. When the 2 figures merged back together, Lin Fei's eyes widened. When the 2 figures merged back together, a cold chill turned into a snow-white sword chi and shot out from the sword, forcing Lin Fei back. With the Earth Vein Saber technique broken, Lin Fei could not gain the upper hand with his saber intent. His state was also slightly weaker. After 100 moves, Lin Fei could only helplessly admit defeat. Lu Xiaoyan sheathed his sword and said softly, "Thank you for letting me win." This battle had proven Lu Xiaoyan's reputation. His miserable defeat at the hands of Chu Xiaoyan was not because he was weak or because the disparity was too great. It was because he had been careless. Chapter 591. Second match, Feng Hua versus Lu Chong. Just like that, another 5 matches passed. None of them were battles between giants, causing the cultivators who were anxiously waiting to watch the battles between giants to feel a sense of irritation. Just as this frustration reached its peak, the referee in the arena finally called out the names of the giants. 12th match, Eastern Sea's Little Dragon King, Xianyuan Zhantian versus the noble clans Li Tianhua. The entire arena immediately erupted into an uproar. It's finally time for the giants to fight. The 8 giants only have 8 matches left. They all have the same number of points. Every match will determine their final ranking, so they will definitely do their best. Indeed, at this moment, they cannot hide their strength. Otherwise, if they lose, they might lose the chance to fight for the first rank. Xianyuan Zhantian versus Li Tianhua. Both of their strengths are unfathomable. I wonder who will win. One is a coiling dragon of the continent, and the other is a flood dragon of the Eastern Sea. This can be considered a fight between 2 dragons. Haha. Everyone's gaze is focused on the wind cloud platform. All sorts of discussions rang out. When all the voices merged together, it was very noisy. In the crowd, Xiao Chen also looked over. These 2 people were worthy of being called giants, especially Xianyuan Zhantian. Xiao Chen felt that Xianyuan Zhantian's strength was much more horrifying than he showed. Xianyuan Zhantian was one of his strongest opponents. After the 2 giants ascended the wind cloud platform, the noisy discussions quickly stopped. Everyone stared at the wind cloud platform. The 2 of them stood in a corner of the arena and looked at each other. Their sharp auras clashed intensely in the air. Before they even made a move, strong winds blew continuously. Li Tianhua smiled gently and said, "I have long heard that there is an absolute genius in the Eastern Boundless Sea, known as the Eastern Sea's Little Dragon King. Now that I see him, he truly lives up to his reputation." Xianyuan Zhantian held his heavenly war halberd and remained silent. He knew that the other party still had something to say. Indeed, Li Tianhua stopped smiling. His gaze became as sharp as a sword. He said sullenly, "Unfortunately, this is the Tianwu continent, not the Boundless Sea. There is no water here. What can you do?" Xianyuan Zhantian's expression did not change. He said indifferently, "If you really think that way, you will probably suffer a miserable defeat." Their words clashed with each other, and their auras refused to give in to each other. Immediately, the 2 of them were filled with the smell of gunpowder, as if they would explode at any moment. Boom! After a long moment of silence, when the atmosphere had reached its pinnacle, the 2 of them suddenly moved at the same time. 2 blurry silhouettes crossed each other in the air. Their speed was as fast as lightning. Everyone could vaguely see 2 dragon-shaped gases entangling and tearing at each other in the air. Li Tianhua's spear transformed into a coiling dragon, known as the true dragon of the land. There was also the flood dragon transformed from the heavenly battle halberd, known as the overlord of the sea and the king of the abyss. Bang, bang, bang. As the spear and halberd clashed, a thunderous boom resounded on the stage. As the flood dragon soared up and down, the sound of seawater rang out as it moved. The coiling dragon stood firmly on the ground. When it was still, it was like a towering mountain, not trembling. When it moved, it was like lava erupting, destroying the world. The 2 of them used the special characteristics of the flood dragon and the coiling dragon to infuse into their martial techniques, bringing them out to their fullest. The state of the battle made everyone sigh in amazement. It was like there were really 2 dragons fighting on the stage. However, no matter what, the coiling dragon was on land. After more than 100 moves, Xianyuan Zhantian's overwhelming attacks crumbled. On the other hand, Li Tianhua's counterattacks caused Xianyuan Zhantian to suffer a small disadvantage. The situation did not look good for him. Haha! What Eastern Seas, little dragon king? You are only SOSO. Receive my double dragon playing with a pearl. Now that Li Tianhua had the upper hand, he laughed loudly. His spear moved left and right, forming two indistinguishable spear images. Each of the spears materialized a ferocious, coiling dragon. The instant the spear images merged, the two coiling dragons roared ferociously and charged over. Based on the ferocious look in the coiling dragon's eyes, they clearly treated Xianyuan Zhantian as a toy. Xianyuan Zhantian smiled gently and scattered the dragon images circling his war halberd. He said sullenly, "Two false dragons. Do you really think of yourselves as true dragons? Today, even if you're a true dragon, you will still have to coil up." Bang! The tip of the heavenly war halberd struck the wind cloud platform heavily. Cracks immediately appeared on the flat platform. Countless strands of dragon chi leaked out, and dragon roars resounded endlessly. A vast sea appeared behind Xianyuan Zhantian. The blue waves stretched as far as the eye could see. As Xianyuan Zhantian stood on the sea, a state of kingship suddenly burst out from his body. The waves surged into the sky, and 18 pillars of water shot up. The state of kingship soared into the sky. The king of the sea. He actually comprehended the state of kingship as well. When Li Tianhua saw this scene, he could not help but reveal a flustered expression. "Ha ha, lie down for me." Xianyuan Zhantian laughed maniacally and thrust his hands forward. The two coiling dragons, which had been toying with him, suddenly turned around. The two coiling dragons, which were originally toying with him, were immediately pressed down on the vast sea, letting out miserable cries. "Just two little worms, and you dare to show off before me? Die!" Xianyuan Zhantian shouted ferociously. His thick eyebrows knitted together tightly, and his face filled with rage. He squeezed the dragon heads with both hands. Kassier! There was a faint scarlet light. Xianyuan Zhantian broke the heads of the two coiling dragons made of essence. Xianyuan Zhantian held one dragon head in each hand and casually tossed it aside. Li Tianhua's double dragon playing with pearl was destroyed just like that. Li Tianhua's expression turned sullen. He clenched his teeth and said, "Good, good, good. How dare you humiliate me like this? Xianyuan Zhantian, I do not care if you're the Eastern Seas king. Now that we are in the Timu continent, I, Li Tianhua, will beat you up into a worm." Li Tianhua shouted loudly and exerted strength in his abdomen. Strange sounds came from his throat, and the rumbling sound waves spread out from his mouth. They formed storm-like ripples, causing the wind cloud platform to tremble continuously. Unexpectedly, Li Tianhua used his body of flesh and blood to roar like a coiling dragon. The hundreds of thousands of cultivators in the spectator stands all felt their scalps go numb. That sound wave seemed to penetrate into their minds, making them feel a resolute rage. Li Tianhua looked like a ferocious coiling dragon. As he walked, cracks appeared on the ground. Strands of dragon chi soared up. However, the dragon roar contained in the dragon chi was completely suppressed by his roar. Coiling dragon rage, heaven falls, and earth rends. Li Tianhua held his spear and pointed it at the sky. His spear flickered with light, materializing the power of a coiling dragon. It seemed like it wanted to shatter the sky and earth to crush Xianyuan Zhantian, the ruler of the four seas, into a meat patty. Xianyuan Zhantian's lips curled up in a mocking expression. He snorted coldly and said, "How foolish! An insignificant, ordinary dragon dares to compete with me?" Xianyuan Zhantian grabbed the heavenly war halberd that he had stabbed into the wind cloud platform with his right hand. Then he roared loudly, and a vast state of kingship surged out from his chest and throat. Bang! 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 The golden sound wave contained the rage of a king as it clashed with Li Tianhua's coiling dragon rage. Kassier! Kassier! Crunching sounds rang out continuously. The sound wave that Li Tianhua sent out was all shattered. Ripples spread out in the air, forming chaotic ripples that caused the entire space to appear blurry and hazy. The roars of the two giants created such a mysterious phenomenon. The cultivators and the spectators' stands were all filled with praise when they saw this. Coiling dragon rage, blood splashes the mountains and rivers. Holding the heavenly war halberd, Xianyuan Zhantian clashed with Li Tianhua once again, supported by the state of kingship. When he attacked, he knocked back his opponent by 100 meters. After knocking back Li Tianhua with one move, Xianyuan Zhantian laughed loudly and quickly took a few steps forward. With every step he took, waves surged up and down, materializing the boundless momentum of a vast ocean. Defeat, defeat, defeat. Waves surged into the sky. Xianyuan Zhantian's every move was accompanied by the vast state of kingship, forcing Li Tianhua into a retreat. Damn it! Blood leaked out of a corner of Li Tianhua's lips. He revealed an expression of dissatisfaction in his eyes. He was a true dragon, unrivaled on land. He should have been able to easily defeat Xianyuan Zhantian. However, who could have imagined that Xianyuan Zhantian would comprehend his own state of kingship from the unending state of water? Turning into the ruler of the four seas, he managed to overcome his disadvantage. In the final 8 rounds, if one lost, one would lose the right to fight for the first rank. Li Tianhua roared loudly, "I am not satisfied." 9 dragons swallowing the heavens. 9 majestic, ancient, coiling dragons appeared together with Li Tianhua's spear light. They bared their fangs and roared maniacally. "Ha ha ha, how laughable! You're just an ordinary dragon, and you dare to speak of swallowing the heavens? Li Tianhua, you're not qualified. I am the ruler of the 4 seas, the son of the yellow sky. Today, I will represent the heavens to punish you." Xianyuan Zhantian revealed an expression of disdain. He laughed loudly, and the vast ocean behind him soared up. 9 dragon images appeared on the heavenly war halberd as well. However, those dragon images were deeply carved into the halberd. The vast heavenly might turned into the state of kingship. The halberd gave off a bright golden light. Every strand of golden light was formed by the pure state of kingship. It was even stronger than Yu Chenxi's morning sun fist. Xianyuan Zhantian swung his right hand forward, holding the end of the heavenly war halberd with one hand. He swept out with an unparalleled aura, and the 9 ancient coiling dragons shattered. Xianyuan Zhantian took another step forward, moving to a blind spot in Li Tianhua's defense. Then he switched the heavenly war halberd to his left hand and flicked it forward. Li Tianhua was sent flying like a sandbag. Bang, bang, bang. Although it looked like a gentle flick, the force contained in it was startling. Blood leaked out of Li Tianhua's mouth. His clothes tore and eventually turned into dust. The crowd was dumbfounded. As they looked at the godlike Xianyuan Zhantian, they felt a sense of worship in their hearts. This state of kingship was no weaker than Sima Lingxuan's. Victory, Xianyuan Zhantian. You have gained another 2 points. The referee's calm voice rang out, pulling the crowd's attention back to reality. They saw that Li Tianhua's 23-meter-long golden dragon had dimmed significantly. It had shrunk by 3 meters, becoming a second-rate dragon. After defeating a major character like Li Tianhua, Xianyuan Zhantian's golden dragon gave off a bright light. It grew to 23 meters, no weaker than by cheese. Chapter 592. This is the strength of a true giant. How unfortunate for Li Tianhua. In the end, he is not a true dragon of the continent. Finally, there is one more person who can compete with Sima Lingxian. Of the 8 giants, only 7 remain. Let's see how many giants will fall in this round. Basically, as long as one loses a match, they will lose their qualifications to fight for the top. In the last few rounds, the number of people who can reach the top will shrink. Xianyuan Zhantian strode forward with his head held high. He ignored Li Tianhua, who was lying on the ground with an expression of dissatisfaction and rage. Next round, Xiao Chun versus Wang Quan. The referee on the Wind Cloud platform announced the names of the 2 sides in the next match. The cultivators in the spectator stands, who were immersed in the earlier match, immediately burst into an uproar. Awesome! Another giant battle. Although Wang Quan is clearly weaker than Bai Qi and the others, his opponent is Xiao Chun. The result of this match is hard to predict. That's right. Earlier, Wang Quan used many moves to defeat Gong Yangyu. However, he was able to defeat Lin Fei in one move. He is stronger than Xiao Chun. Based on the strength that he revealed, Wang Quan should be stronger than Xiao Chun. Although the 8 giants were ranked first, the crowd could still use the strength that they revealed to determine who was stronger. Naturally, Sima Lingxian and Bai Qi were ranked first. Xianyuan Zhantian and Chu Chaoyan were ranked second. Yu Chenxi, Li Tianhua, and Wang Quan were ranked third. Xiao Chun was ranked last. However, no matter what, this was just a guess. Who was stronger and who was weaker could only be determined after a fight. On the Wind Cloud platform, Wang Quan held the handle of the Dragon Fiend Whip in his right hand and held the whip in his left hand. As he looked at the white-robed Xiao Chun, he did not rush to make a move. A deep light flashed in Wang Quan's eyes. After thinking for a while, he said, "White-robed bladesman Xiao Chun, the only cultivator to reach the 8th floor of the ancient desolate tower in the past 1,000 years. Actually, I have heard of you long ago. You are very strong. However, your weakness prevents you from reaching the top. Do you know what your weakness is?" Although Wang Quan's voice was not loud, the cultivators and the spectators' stand still heard him clearly. Naturally, they had heard of the ancient desolate tower before. When they saw Xiao Chen's calm expression, shock filled their eyes. Unexpectedly, this white-robed bladesman had such a glorious past despite his silent consecutive victories. He was too low-key. Unexpectedly, he had managed to reach the 8th floor of the ancient desolate tower. Just based of this, his background was already comparable to that of the heirs of the 8 noble clans. Xiao Chen looked at Wang and said interestedly, "Xiao Wang of Wang. Xiao Xiao Desoff of Desolate Descend Xiao. Of Tianoff. Of Xiao of Desi's of Dao of Chun Xiao of." When Xiao Chun heard this, he was slightly stunned. However, his expression did not change. Wang Quan was right. Xiao Chen's cultivation was indeed too low. Even the weakest of the 8 giants was a great perfection half-step martial monarch. The stronger ones were peak consummation half-step martial monarchs. As for Xiao Chun, he was only a small perfection half-step martial monarch. However, this was not a problem. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation was a supreme cultivation technique of immortal cultivators. It was comparable to a heaven-ranked cultivation technique of cultivators. Xiao Chen's essence was abundant and dense. He could only be stronger than those people. Unless those people had already opened their sea of consciousness and started to use their mental energy to refine quintessence, it would be somewhat problematic. Of course, that was all there was to it. An expression of understanding flashed on Wang Quan's face. He continued, "You have figured out the problem, right?" "That's right. As far as I know, Bai Qi already opened his sea of consciousness 3 months ago. Now, 1/5 of the essence in his body has probably been refined into quintessence. Sima Lingxian is even more incredible. He already opened his sea of consciousness half a year ago." Xiao Chen's expression remained calm. He could tell that the other party was trying to break his mental state. He interrupted, "Let's cut to the chase. About 1/10 of your essence should have been refined into quintessence, right? You can try and see if I can reach the top." After Xiao Chen's words hit the nail on the head, Wang Quan's expression sank. He smiled coldly and said, "The strength of quintessence is not something you can imagine. Originally, I wanted you to back off. However, since you want to fight, I can only grant your wish." Xiao Chun released the coiled Dragon Fiend Whip with his left hand and infused his quintessence into it. The soft whip instantly seemed to come to life. It tore a small crack in space as it descended toward Xiao Chun. As the whip slid down, the tiny spatial crack rapidly closed. Clearly, although the whip could break through the void, it was still a little forceful. "Huh!" The speed at which the Dragon Fiend Whip descended was as fast as lightning, as swift as a rabbit. With a schwa sound, it shattered the afterimage that Xiao Chun left behind. Then, the whip landed on the ground. A crack immediately appeared on the wind cloud platform. Boundless dragon Chi spread out. A casual whip possessed such might, flabbergasting everyone. A strange look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He turned around and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art, moving quickly around the wind cloud platform, dodging the whip's sharpness. There were very few people in the Tianwu continent who could use a whip. This was because the whip technique was too difficult to practice. It was a test of talent. However, once someone reached great perfection, they would be very difficult to deal with, just like Wang Quan before Xiao Chun. Wang Quan brought out the unpredictable characteristics of the whip technique to its limits. Then, he used his quintessence to supplement it. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chun kept retreating, unable to find a good counterattack. Indeed, essence cannot compare to quintessence. The difference is too great. This Wang Quan actually opened his sea of consciousness. This time, Xiao Chun is going to lose for sure. How unfortunate. He did not have enough time to grow. The signs are all 2 or 3 years older than him. Otherwise, he would have started refining his quintessence as well. Cultivation is indeed his weakness. No matter how good his techniques are, there is nothing he can do about it. As the spectators watched Xiao Chun dodge left and right, they all felt pity for him, feeling that it was not worth it. White-robed bladesman, didn't you already comprehend saber intent? Your saber techniques have also reached great perfection. Why do you not even dare to draw your saber? As Wang Quan held the Dragon Fiend whip, he had a faint smile on his face as he brandished it. At one moment, it was as soft as a venomous snake coming out of its hole. At another moment, it was as hard as 1,000 coal mountains. The Dragon Fiend whip was like an extra arm in Wang Quan's hand. Wang Quan was very adept at switching between hard and soft. He executed all sorts of martial techniques that could only be executed with the whip. They rained down on Xiao Chun like a torrential storm. As the whip moved, it formed an impenetrable light screen, forcing Xiao Chun back step by step. The quintessence infused into the Dragon Fiend whip raised the might of this light screen to the limit. As the whip images flew around, it seemed like they sliced space apart. Wang Quan glanced at the wind cloud barrier not far behind Xiao Chun. He smiled coldly and said, "Are you still not going to draw your saber?" Netherworld, demonic whip. Wang Quan swung his wrist thrice in the air. In that instant, the 2-meter-long Dragon Fiend whip sent out thousands of whip images. They turned into countless sinister and horrifying evil spirits from other worlds. They danced around chaotically, looking like the 9 layers of purgatory. There was no way back. If he went forward, it would be a purgatory made up of whip images. Wang Quan was forcing Xiao Chun to clash head-on with him. Since there was no way to retreat and no way to advance, then he would fight. Xiao Chun stopped and rooted himself to the ground. He stood firmly on the wind cloud platform like an ancient tree. An intense storm blew from the front, causing his clothes and hair to flutter. However, his body did not move at all. He had a prideful air, not fearing this purgatory. Even more so, he did not fear the quintessence on the whip images. Xiao Chun grasped the saber hilt with his right hand and slowly drew the lunar shadow saber by an inch. As a light flickered, his saber intent rose continuously. 10%, 20%, 30%, peak small perfection, 40%, it continued to rise. When the long, pitch-black lunar shadow saber was completely drawn, Xiao Chun unleashed his peak saber intent uncontrollably. The dazzling saber light dazzled and flabbergasted everyone. 60%. It really is a 60% comprehended saber intent. Although it has not reached perfect control, it really is a 60% comprehended saber intent. It completely surpasses Bai Chi's peak, small perfection saber intent. He is only a step away from great perfection. With this, even Sima Lingxuan's sword intent will not be able to suppress his saber intent. The cultivators and the spectator stands discuss this. They had not expected Xiao Chun to have such a trump card. They were not the only ones shocked. The expressions of the 8 giants turned grave as well. This was especially so for Bai Chi, A look of shock flashed in his eyes. All along, Bai Qi had considered himself to be the top bladesman of the Tianwu continent's younger generation. However, the saber intent that Xiao Chen brought out completely shattered this halo. Xiao Chen's saber intent was 20% higher than Bai Qi's. Bai Qi clenched his right fist tightly and consoled himself. Saber intent is nothing. I have the four-season saber technique. No bladesman will be a match for me. Absolutely not. When Chu Chaoyan saw this scene, he smiled gently and said, 60% comprehended saber intent. Although it is not mature, it is sufficient to stand out from the crowd. The people of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and Bai, who were originally worried for Xiao Chen, all heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao! 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 Xiao Chen had yet to fully grasp the 60% comprehended saber intent. Strands of extremely strong saber wind surged out uncontrollably in all directions. The fiendish demons and malicious spirits formed by quintessence were all chopped into nothingness. The fiendish demons and malicious spirits could not resist at all. The strength of the 60% comprehended saber intent far surpassed everyone's expectations. Wang Quan had only refined a tenth of his quintessence. It was not enough. The situation of the battlefield instantly turned around. The wind blew, the clouds moved, and the clouds gathered with the wind. With the support of the 60% comprehended saber intent, Xiao Chen executed the starting stance of the lightning tribulation saber technique. It carried the momentum of the wind and clouds as it chopped down countless fiendish demons and malicious spirits, breaking through hell. When the saber light struck Wang Quan's protective quintessence, there was a dang sound. The quintessence shield trembled, but it did not shatter. Blood leaked out of Wang Quan's mouth. He laughed loudly and said, I have a quintessence shield. I am naturally undefeatable. Your 60% comprehended saber intent is not dense enough. You will not be able to break my quintessence shield. Ignorant? Do I need to break it? Xiao Chen said softly. The crystal chi whirlpool in his body spun rapidly. The surging essence gathered on the saber. With the support of the saber intent, the leaping electric light looked like a resplendent purple sun. Bang! Chapter 593. Xiao Chen brought out all of his essence, supported by his 60% comprehended saber intent and the peak state of thunder. With one saber strike, Wang Quan vomited a mouthful of blood as he went flying. That strong quintessence shield fluctuated and rippled, but it did not shatter. However, the pure force that passed through it caused Wang Quan's internal organs to be in a mess. Stop fighting, I admit defeat. Wang Quan, who landed on the ground, felt incredible pain. When he saw that Xiao Chen still wanted to continue fighting, he quickly admitted defeat. Wang Quan's quintessence was nearly exhausted. If Xiao Chen attacked again, his originally insufficient quintessence would shatter. Xiao Chen's golden dragon immediately swallowed up another 3 meters of the 23-meter-long golden dragon above him. Its light dimmed, and it was only 15 meters long. Xiao Chen's golden dragon was dazzling and full of vigor. It was 25 meters long. Sheathing his saber, Xiao Chen prepared to leave the arena. He paused for a while and said to Wang Quan, My cultivation is indeed not high. However, you cannot stop me. Even without this 60% comprehended saber intent, I can still defeat you easily. 60% comprehended saber intent and the gathering of wind and clouds. Xiao Chen defeated Wang Quan, one of the giants, in one move. Even though Wang Quan had a high cultivation, even opened his sea of consciousness, and refined a tenth of his essence into quintessence, he was still not a match for Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen revealed another trump card, the so-called tenth of his quintessence was no longer sufficient. At this moment, no one thought that Xiao Chen was the weakest of the 8 giants. With such strength, he could compete with Bai Qi. If Xiao Chen was more daring, he might be able to fight with Sima Lingxian. However, his chances of victory would be slightly lower. Next match, Nangong Ziyue against Bai Mingshang. This was another match between the noble clan disciples. Although the two had lost a few matches earlier and lost the fight for the top 8, their strength was still there. However, His strength was still there, and he was a popular contender for the top 10. This battle was still quite eye-catching. Bai Mingxiang excelled at palm techniques. His lamenting palm perfectly materialized the emotionless Tao. His palm technique was cold and emotionless. Every move contained a strong might. However, Bai Mingxiang's opponent was Nangong Ziyue. Her state of mountain and water was as calm as rippling water. However, when it moved, it shook the ground. She did not fear his emotionless Tao. The two were evenly matched. After exchanging 400 moves, an opening appeared in Bai Mingxiang's emotionless Tao. Nangong Ziyue took advantage of this opportunity to obtain victory. With only 8 rounds remaining, Nangong Ziyue obtained victory. She was one step closer to the top 10. With Nangong Ziyue's victory, Xiao of Xiao, Dao, and Qi Yushang, there were 8 Chen 7 Chun of Chun. Only one had Xiao Chen 7 and Chun the 8 Chun of the 7 of Wang Chun Xiao of Chun of Shangwood of brothers. After of the 8 matches, there were only 8 giants. Aside from himself, he could only fight 7 matches against the other 7 giants. Naturally, the remaining match will be decided by the other contestants. How to arrange, it was up to the referee. However, the remaining match did not put much pressure on the 8 giants. Lu Xiaoyan looked at the confident Sima Lingxian and sighed softly. He smiled bitterly and said, 3 years ago, I could last 10 moves against you. Now, after 3 years, I probably cannot even block 1 move from you. Sima Lingxian, how about we compete in the sword? We will only compete in the sword and nothing else. Competing in the sword was similar to competing in the saber. Both parties would draw their swords at the same time. Whoever's sword could defeat the other parties would be the winner. Naturally, Lu Xiaoyan's sword was not as strong as Sima Lingxian's. The reason he said this was because he wanted to compete with Sima Lingxian in the sword. He wanted to comprehend Sima Lingxian's sword intent and use it to improve himself. Sima Lingxian had a proud and aloof personality. He looked down on all the swordsmen in the world. Lu Xiaoyan had a request for him. At this moment, he was extremely humble. His gaze was fiery, hoping that Sima Lingxian would agree. With your status and strength, you are qualified to compete in the sword with me. Prepare to draw your sword. Sima Lingxian muttered to himself for a while and did not reject Lu Xiaoyan's suggestion. An excited expression flashed in Lu Xiaoyan's eyes. He performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Many thanks." After Lu Xiaoyan spoke, he grasped his sword hilt with his right hand. His essence, state of ice, sword intent, and his understanding of the sword Tao all accumulated at this moment. Competing with swords sounded simple. It was just pulling out the sword and throwing it out. However, this simple action contained many aspects of truth. Sword intent, sword move, state, and force of attack. As long as there was a mistake in any one of these aspects, the instant the sword was drawn, it would be full of openings. The atmosphere instantly turned heavy. The air seemed to freeze at this moment. The wind cloud platform fell deathly silent. Both sides remained silent, accumulating their moves. Wong, Wong, Wong. Amidst this endless silence, there was suddenly a resonant sword hum. The sword hum was long, continuous, and solemn. As the sword intent trembled, the huge wind cloud arena trembled continuously. The two of them made their moves at the same time. A solitary sword spun quickly in the air, causing snowflakes to dance in the air. The sword intent gave off a silvery white light, making the place even colder. Cold, extreme cold, cold, and emotionless. This was Lu Xiaoyan's state. His sword intent also served this purpose. On the other side, Sima Lingxian's sword flickered with a golden light. Strong winds filled the air and clouds churned. As the winds blew and clouds churned, it contained a vast state of kingship. This was a sword of kingship. With the support of Sima Lingxian's 60% comprehended sword intent, the state of kingship appeared very tyrannical and mighty. It faintly gave off the boldness of 10,000 swords. It was the king of swords. Dang! The two swords quickly clashed. Lu Xiaoyan's sword was knocked back with a bang. Then it broke into two pieces. As for Sima Lingxuan's sword, it gave off a shio sound and easily stabbed into the wind cloud platform with a brilliant sword intent. Cracks appeared in the sword, and dragon chi immediately soared up. The hazy dragon chi increased the aura of that proud sword significantly. The sharpness of the sword of kingship soared into the clouds, nearly breaking the wind-cloud barrier in the sky. Before that sword of kingship, Lu Xiaoyan could not resist at all. The difference between their sword intent and sword intent was too great. The sword was a swordsman's second clone. This sword had followed Lu Xiaoyan for an unknown number of days and nights. It had killed countless enemies. Unknowingly, it had already infused Lu Xiaoyan's qi, blood, and soul. Now that the sword broke, blood leaked out of a corner of Lu Xiaoyan's lips. His complexion turned pale, and his mind became extremely fatigued. After being defeated in one move, Sima Lingxian immediately swallowed up a significant portion of Lu Xiaoyan's 20-meter-long golden dragon, making it much dimmer. However, Sima Lingxuan's golden dragon did not grow much longer. It was still 27 meters long. With Xiao Qin's current luck, unless he defeated the 8 giants, it would be hard for his golden dragon to grow any longer. Lu Xiaoyan wiped off the blood from the corner of his lips. He was not in a rush to get off the wind cloud platform. Instead, he closed his eyes and carefully comprehended the state of Sima Lingxuan's sword when the two swords clashed. After a long time, Lu Xiaoyan opened his eyes. His pale face revealed a gratified expression as he picked up the 2 broken swords from the wind cloud platform. When competing with swordsmen, I always use my full power. I will not hold anything back. Sima Lingxian said something that others could not understand. Then, he gently landed on the wind cloud platform. However, Lu Xiaoyan was slightly stunned. He understood what Sima Lingxian meant. He was advising him not to be dispirited. However, Sima Lingxian had a proud and aloof character. It would be impossible for him to console others directly. Hence, he was beating around the bush. The first round of the competition ended amidst everyone's excitement. Of the 8 giants, Wang Quan and Li Tianhua were defeated, losing their chance to fight for the first rank. The 2 giants' matches did not disappoint the crowd. Xiao Qin fought against Wang Quan, and Xianyuan Zhantian fought against Li Tianhua. These 2 people were the new talents of this 5-nation youth competition. They suddenly rose to prominence and advanced rapidly. Their achievements rose steadily. The golden dragon circling above their heads grew crazily, not stopping at all. This was especially so for Xiao Chun. He was even more unfathomable. Since the start of the elimination rounds, he had not been defeated once. Under the circumstances where many cultivators did not think highly of him, Xiao Chun kept on winning, defeating all his opponents. Just when everyone thought that his winning streak was about to end, he would reveal some of his trump cards and defeat his opponent. No one knew how many trump cards Xiao Qin had. This youth in the Great Qi Nation wore white robes and held a saber. He defeated all the outstanding talents, noble clans disciples, sect disciples, and veteran giants. He was neither arrogant nor rash, neither servile nor overbearing. He always had a clear and indifferent expression on his face. First match, Bai Qi against Yu Chenxi. The 94th round began. The referee unhurriedly announced the lineups of the 2 sides. This is another battle between giants. I wonder who will push you down. On the road to the peak, one has to win everything in order to reach the top. Failure is not tolerated. The competition has been going on for quite some time. Bai Qi has the 4-season saber technique. I wonder what other trump cards Yu Chenxi will have. In the spectator seats, everyone discussed animatedly, and they were extremely excited. In terms of strength, Yu Chenxi was not much weaker than Xiao Chun. On the wind cloud platform, Bai Qi did not have any intention of underestimating Yu Chenxi. It was like a mountain with steep cliffs and steep cliffs. The path was filled with thorns, and too many climbers had died on it. The few people who could see the summit already had no path of retreat. If they fell, they would be left behind by the other climbers. 3 years of hard work, day and night, achieving success in one go. His dream was right in front of him. He had waited too long for this moment. Bai Qi had too many things to prove. He could not afford to lose. He could not lose. He absolutely could not lose. Fight! 18 heaven-breaking saber strikes. Without needing to say anything, the moment the referee announced the start of the match, the momentum that Bai Qi had been storing up erupted. His overwhelming fighting spirit turned into a dazzling saber light as he executed the first strike of the 18 heaven-breaking saber strikes, hacking at Yu Chenxi. Yu Chenxi had a grave expression. Caution filled her pretty face. She had no intention of giving up against Bai Qi. Yu Chenxi took a deep breath and infused her essence in her right fist. A golden light exploded and shattered the saber Qi, turning it into a rain of light that fell to the ground. Second heaven-breaking saber strike. Right after the saber light shattered, the second heaven-breaking saber strike with an even more ferocious aura descended. Third strike, fourth strike, fifth strike. Bai Qi stood rooted to the ground, not moving at all. He held his saber in his right hand and brandished it continuously. The 18 heaven-breaking saber strikes rained down like a torrential storm. Chapter 594. The saber intent contained a strong saber intent, each strike stronger than the one before. At the start, Yu Chenxi was relaxed. The pressure slowly increased, and he started to move back. Without moving, Bai Qi circulated the essence in his body and turned it into the 18 heaven-breaking saber strikes, forcing Yu Chenxi back by more than 10 steps. 18th saber strike. Bai Qi roared ferociously. He had not moved since the start of the competition. Now, he finally moved. When he did not move, the saber lights were like a never-ending storm, forcing his opponent back. However, when Bai Qi moved, he was as still as a mountain. There was only a great spirit hidden in his saber. He turned into an ancient divine mountain that could suppress the sun, the moon, the rivers, and the stars. His movements were unpredictable. A grave look flashed in Yu Chenxi's eyes. When facing the final saber strike of the heaven-breaking saber technique, he brought out the might of the morning sun incantation to the 13th layer. A blazing sun slowly rose from behind him, materializing the state of the morning sun. Light illuminates the sky. With a ferocious roar, Yu Chenxi leaped up together with the blazing sun. The golden sun made her look as beautiful as a goddess. Everyone stopped breathing, not daring to breathe loudly lest they ruin this beautiful scene. At this moment, everyone seemed to have forgotten that this beautiful scene hid Yu Chenxi's huge killing move. Bang! A startling explosion rang out, pulling everyone out of the beautiful scenery. Surging shock waves spread out on the wind cloud platform. Beautiful purples and reds filled the air, surging majestically. Cracks appeared in the wind cloud barrier, looking like it would collapse at any moment. What a strong force. It looks like Yu Chenxi only used less than 70% of his strength in his fight with Nangong Ziyue. I can't see clearly. Has the victor been decided? Who exactly is stronger? If Bai Qi loses like this, it would be a pity. He still has the four-season saber technique that he has not used yet. That should not be the case. Bai Qi will not lose so easily. Who knows? All I can say is that anything is possible. Before he stepped onto the platform, did you expect Yu Chenxi to burst forth with such an intense fist wind? In the spectators' stands, everyone stood up and circulated their essence to their eyes. They wanted to find the figures of the two people in the multicolored chi waves. However, the thickness and density of the shock wave far surpassed their expectations. They could not see anything at all, so the group of cultivators could not help feeling anxious. The spring water flowed leisurely, warm at first, then cold at the next. Amid the heavy shock waves, everyone heard a familiar sound. It was Bai Qi executing the four-season saber technique. It looked like the final move of this heaven-breaking saber technique lost to Yu Chenxi's light illuminating the heavens. Otherwise, he would not have used the four-season saber technique. A delicate shout rang out from the airwaves as well. Yu Chenxi was fearless in the face of this saber that contained the power of reincarnation. It was hard to tell whether it was warm or cold. As the light exploded, A punch that was even more powerful than the light illuminating the heavens burst forth. Since there was no way to know whether it was cold or warm, then he would directly use force to break through. Whatever Nangong Ziyue could not do, she would do it for Yu Chenxi. Morning sun breaks dawn, heaven-shattering punch. Boom, 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 boom. Continuous explosions rang out in the shock waves. The sound were like mountains collapsing and the ground sinking. A huge storm spread out from the center of the exchange. In an instant, the storm blew away the layers of shock waves that filled the arena. The scene on the wind cloud arena reappeared before everyone's eyes. They saw Yu Chenxi standing on a rainbow bridge. The morning sun flickered behind her, giving off a faint radiance. The wind cloud platform looked peaceful. However, her complexion was extremely red, causing her beautiful face to appear somewhat sickly, causing people to involuntarily feel a sense of worry in their hearts. In front of her, Bai Qi's long robes fluttered as he slowly moved back. Then, he slowly floated to the ground like a willow leaf. Bai Qi's complexion looked much better than Yu Chenxi's. However, his expression turned completely sullen. He retreated. Everyone immediately became excited. Bai Qi, who executed the first move of the four-season saber technique, was actually knocked back by Yu Chenxi. Breaking technique with brute force. This is breaking technique with brute force. Although it is called coincidence, Bai Qi's first saber strike contained the power of the cycle of seasons. Just the power of the cycle of seasons is not something that ordinary people can block. However, not only did Yu Chenxi knock back the power of the cycle of seasons, but he even broke the other party's state of spring water. Strong. He can still break the strongest martial technique under heaven ranked. A woman does not lose to a man. With this move, Yu Chenxi can put us to shame. All the cultivators and the spectator stands became excited at this moment. The first move of the four-season saber technique was actually knocked back. Everyone was filled with shock, their faces filled with disbelief. Their expressions were very excited. Spring is over, and summer is coming. The flowing fire mercilessly illuminates the world. My heart is higher than the blazing sun. When Bai Qi landed on the ground, he did not hesitate. He shouted and executed the second move of the four-season saber technique. Spring is over, and summer is coming. The flowing fire of the seventh month burns mercilessly. However, there was a boundless fighting spirit in Bai Qi's heart. It was even stronger than the blazing sun of the seventh month. His heart was higher than the sky. This was the state that the Saber Emperor, Bai Shuihe, had obtained from summer. Bai Qi copied it and executed it. When the boundless carelessness turned into a saber technique, it became a dazzling, fiery light. There was a valiance that could swallow mountains and rivers. Pointing at the sky and stepping on the ground, there is only one saber. Bai Qi's voice was not loud. However, the instant he executed the saber technique, his aura suddenly magnified infinitely. It was very tyrannical. The hearts of the crowd in the spectator stands could not help but tighten. They had already taken the place of Yu Chenxi long ago. When they saw Bai Qi's horrifying second saber strike, they could not help but worry for Yu Chenxi. The sun rises from the east, red like fire. How can the blazing sun be defeated so easily? The lofty aspirations in my heart will never extinguish. I dare to go up to the 9 heavens to grab the bright moon. A red sun illuminates the 9 provinces. The light of the rivers for thousands of kilometers will never be extinguished. Yu Chenxi's flushed face glowed with pride. A lofty aspiration burst forth from her chest. A 7-colored pillar of light appeared behind her. Scarlet, orange, red, green, azure, blue, and purple formed a miraculous 7-colored light. She turned into the blazing sun and shot out from the multicolored light. A fist several times stronger than the one before clashed with Bai Qi's tyrannical saber strike. Bang! The moment they clashed, the multicolored light behind her shattered, turning into a multicolored light that scattered over the wind cloud platform. She vomited a large mouthful of blood, and her complexion turned even redder. Only the dim morning sun continued to rise proudly behind her. On the other side, Bai Qi was in an even worse state. In an instant, he was knocked back 100 meters. His speed did not decrease as he continued crashing into the wind cloud barrier. Once again, Yu Qinzi knocked back the second move of the four-season saber technique. Good. The crowd was very excited. The hundreds of thousands of cultivators in the spectator stands cheered in unison. Their shouts pierced through the clouds, and the entire wind cloud platform seemed to tremble. They were so excited that they could hardly contain themselves. Bai Qi broke another punch. The Haotian sex Yu Qinzi might really be able to create a miracle. He might use brute force to break technique and defeat the famous four-season saber technique, becoming the greatest dark horse of this five-season saber tournament. The wind is heartless, and summer is coming to an end. The people are like leaves, too sentimental. Even at death's door, they still cling to the branch. The autumn wind rustles endlessly, sweeping away all the lovers in the world. Just as Bai Qi was about to crash into the wind cloud barrier, he forcefully turned around. He pushed off the wind cloud barrier and executed the third move of the four-season saber technique. The world is heartless. The great Tao is heartless. This saber strike is cold and filled with love. It sweeps through the world with the might of the autumn wind. Can Yu Qinzi block it? Outside the wind cloud platform, Xiao Qin's eyes flickered with a brilliant light. His mind quickly tried to simulate Bai Qi's four-season saber technique. From the moment Bai Qi executed long-lasting spring water, Xiao Qin placed all his attention on him. Xiao Qin's already much stronger spiritual sense pierced through the wind cloud barrier and turned into specks of light hidden in the air. He paid close attention to Bai Qi's every move. Bai Shuihe truly lives up to being a saber emperor. It looks like he held back against me, a junior, in the ancient desolate tower. Otherwise, with the four-season saber technique, I would not even be able to block one move from him. Xiao Qin quickly analyzed in his heart. However, when Bai Qi executed it, it lacked some spirituality. It seems more artificial. How unfortunate. Not to mention Xiao Qin, the other giants, Xianyuan Zhantian, Chu Chaoyun, and even Sima Lingxian, all watched Bai Qi's every move without blinking. The four-season saber technique was too famous. It was rare for Yu Qinzi to help them push Bai Qi to this extent. If they did not properly comprehend the mysteries within, it would be a waste of this opportunity. It looks like I overestimated you. Your saber technique is pretty good, but your talent is still lacking. Sima Lingxian shared the same opinion as Xiao Qin. As he looked at Bai Qi on the wind cloud platform, a calm look flashed in his eyes. The confidence in his chest grew even stronger. Yu Qinzi's pretty face was extremely beautiful. Her bright red face looked like it would bleed at any moment. This was an extremely abnormal state. Clearly, she had already reached her limits. She might not be able to block the third saber strike. In the sky, the pitch-black curtain of night was like an overturned cauldron. It directly flipped over and shrouded this part of the world. Just like that, night fell quietly. Bai Qi had not given up yet. Yu Qinzi still wanted to persevere, so she executed the strongest state of the morning sun fist. In the darkness, Xiao Qin frowned slightly. He muttered, "This girl is pushing too hard." The deep night was boundless and boundless. It was so dark that one would not be able to see their fingers if they stretched out their hands. Humans had an innate fear and resistance to night. Hence, they called for the morning sun, hoping that the light would never be extinguished. Xiao. Amid this boundless anticipation, the blazing sun broke through the night sky. Its boundless light shone on every corner of the wind cloud platform. Under the tempering of the night sky, this blazing sun looked different from the rest. Its light seemed eternal and inextinguishable. A red sun illuminated the 9 provinces. All the darkness could not be seen. When facing Bai Qi's four-season saber technique's third move, Yu Qinzi still chose to use brute force to break technique. She prepared to use the strongest power of the morning sun to break the emotionless autumn wind. Bai Qi's expression was cold. There was no emotion in his eyes. The emotionless autumn wind blew behind him. Then, he charged forward with his sweeping saber strike. Boom! A strong saber light flashed in the wind cloud platform. Following that, a dazzling light enveloped the entire wind cloud platform. Bai Qi looked at the crowd in the wind cloud platform. Aside from light, there was nothing else in his eyes. Chapter 595. There was neither silence nor scenery. There was no sound, no scene reflected in his eyes. All that was left was the pure light that drifted about. With a cracking sound, a resonant dragon roar rang out from within the light. The endless autumn wind blew gently, sweeping away the specks of light one by one. The autumn wind rose and fell. In midair, Bai Qi held his saber with one hand, drifting with the undulating autumn wind. Everyone looked up and saw Yu Chenxi lying weakly on the ground, her complexion completely pale. The morning sun behind her had already dimmed to the point where it did not give off any light at all. Only a pale glow remained, like a flickering spark that would be extinguished by the wind at any moment. A long crack appeared on the ground, splitting the wind cloud platform in half. As the electric light flashed, the wind cloud platform slowly healed. Bai Qi sheathed his saber, and the autumn wind in the arena spun around and returned to his saber. Bai Qi landed on the ground, and blood appeared at the corner of his lips. However, he was in a much better state than Yu Chenxi. It was clear who was stronger and who was weaker, who was the victor and who was the loser. Bai Qi's golden dragon roared ferociously and swallowed up Yu Chenxi's 23-meter-long golden dragon. After that, the golden dragon grew to 23 meters long, catching up to Sima Lingxian. Yu Chenxi, who was on the ground, tried to stand up weakly. Bai Qi knew his condition, so he sent out a cool breeze and gently helped Yu Chenxi up. Yu Chenxi said softly, "Many thanks." Bai Qi looked deeply at this girl who had caught 3 of his saber strikes. A trace of respect flashed in the depths of his eyes. He performed a cupped fist salute and said, "I have to thank you as well. You showed me some of the inadequacies of the 4-season saber technique. I hope that we can have a chance to exchange pointers in the future." Gladly. The earth-shattering and intense battle just now had turned into gusts of cool breeze amidst the conversation between the two of them, and the tense atmosphere was gone with the wind. Our generation of martial artists should be like this, winning fair and above board, losing convincingly, being able to pick up and let go, being open-minded. The elders of the Haoyan sect nodded and smiled. With Yu Chenxi's strength, it was certain that he would be in the top 5. This was the best result the Haoyan sect had ever achieved. When the two of them walked off the dueling platform, the experts of their sects, who had been waiting for a long time, quickly received them. They used spirit pills and profound cultivations to heal the two of them, recovering their combat prowess. In this round, Xiao Qin's opponent was a personal disciple of one of the 10 great sects, Dongfang Yubai. The two of them had never fought before. In the face of Xiao Qin, who was extremely popular and had unfathomable strength, Dongfang Yubai held onto a sliver of hope. He believed that he still had some trump cards hidden, so he did not choose to admit defeat immediately. Xiao Qin was not in a rush. He exchanged a few moves with this person. After his opponent used up all his trump cards, there was no longer any martial technique that could pique his interest. So, Xiao Qin lost his patience and used his 60% comprehended saber intent. Then, he used the lightning tribulation saber technique to defeat his opponent in 3 strikes. The absolute strength caused Dongfang Yubai's heart to turn to ashes. After defeating Dongfang Yubai, Xiao Qin's golden dragon grew significantly. It reached 26 meters, only 1 meter away from 27 meters. However, there was still some distance between him and Bai Qi. This was due to Xiao Qin's insufficient accumulations. After all, he had not participated in the previous 5-nation youth competition and obtained more luck. However, Xiao Qin did not think too much about it. As long as he stood at the peak, his luck would naturally surpass everyone else's. Next match, Sima Lingxian against Wang Quan. After 20 moves, Wang Quan, who had used his cloning technique, could no longer hold on. Sima Lingxian did not even use his quintessence. Wang Quan only used his state of kingship and the Son of Heaven sword technique, together with his 60% comprehended sword intent, to the point where Wang Quan could not retaliate. After losing to Xiao Chun, Wang Quan lost to Sima Lingxian. This time, it was difficult for Wang Quan to even get into the top 3. When the 94th round of matches came to an end, another match between giants arrived, Xianyuan Zhantian against Chu Chaoyan. For the sake of preserving their strength in the elimination round, the two had chosen to fight in a tacit manner. After one move, they ended in a draw. Draws were not allowed in the ranking matches. A victor had to be decided. Furthermore, at this moment, the two had not lost a single match. At this crucial moment, neither could afford to lose. If they lost, they would lose the chance to reach the top. They had to do their best. Xianyuan Zhantian comprehended the higher-ranked state of kingship from the state of the sea. Chu Chaoyan should have some trump cards that he has not revealed yet. The battle between these two should be about the same. It will be much more exciting than the battle between Sima Lingxian and Wang Quan. Their chances of victory are about the same. However, I still favor Xianyuan Zhantian. After all, he was the only one who dared to compete with Sima Lingxian back then. Clearly, the attention this battle received was much greater than that of Sima Lingxian and Wang Quan's battle. Xiao Chun could tell this from the discussions in the surroundings. Xiao Chun paid special attention to this battle as well. He had always feared Chu Chaoyan, finding him unfathomable. From the start of the battle until now, Chu Chaoyan had not revealed many of his trump cards. Now that Chu Chaoyan was facing Xianyuan Zhantian, he could see how strong Xianyuan Zhantian was. When Xianyuan Zhantian faced Chu Chaoyan, he showed a grave expression. He casually swung his heavenly war halberd, and a vast sea spread out from behind him. Xianyuan Zhantian brought out the vast state of water to its limits. Instantly, waves surged up and down. As Xianyuan Zhantian stood on that vast sea, he held up his heavenly war halberd and looked around arrogantly. "Rise!" Xianyuan Zhantian shouted, and a huge wave soared up from the sea. He held the heavenly war halberd with both hands and hacked down. Boom! A pillar of light descended from the sky and encased Chu Chaoyan. Within the golden light, Chu Chaoyan's aura was boundlessly holy. Every inch of his clothes and every strand of his hair gave off a faint golden glow. Xiao! A resonant sound rang out as Chu Chaoyan drew his sword. A sword intent spread out as he swung his sword in the wind, giving off a bright light. Before the heavenly war halberd could reach Chu Chaoyan, the golden sword easily blocked Xianyuan Zhantian's vast halberd strike. Berserk Dragon burst. After his first move failed, Xianyuan Zhantian quickly switched to another move. The waves under his feet spun wildly, forming a huge whirlpool. He turned into a flood dragon and hid himself. The waves rolled, and the gales didn't stop. The powerful concept of water lingered and pervaded the entire arena, causing everyone to feel as if they were really in a vast ocean, and for no reason, a feeling of insignificance arose in their hearts. Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly and looked at the incoming berserk dragon burst. Instead of advancing, he retreated. A bright light flickered in his deep eyes as he looked at the whirlpool of the water dragon. It was like everything before his eyes was just an illusion. Heaven-destroying sword. The light that drifted down from the sword suddenly condensed into a line, turning into a dense sword light that shot forward. With the support of the sword will, the golden light even tore thin cracks in the void. And a muffled groan came from the water dragon burst. Xianyuan Zhantian, who was hidden within, brandished his heavenly war halberd and quickly retreated. When the berserk water dragon burst was within 2 centimeters of Chu Chaoyan, it shattered into droplets of rain and fell from the sky. They shattered and turned into droplets of rain falling from the sky. When they landed on the wind cloud platform, the droplets of rain exploded. The energy contained in the droplets of rain blasted out a horrifying shockwave, blowing out a boundless shockwave. Just a drop of rain had such power. It was very shocking. As the golden light spread out, before the strong raindrops could get close to Chu Chaoyan, they turned into hazy steam. Chu Chaoyan focused his gaze and seized the initiative. He did not hesitate to rush forward and launch a sharp counterattack. Dang! 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 The sea churned and the waves roared. Light filled the place. Amid the horrifying waves, the two quickly exchanged moves. In an instant, they each exchanged more than 100 moves. Chu Chaoyun was the kind of person who would find it hard to turn the situation around once he grasped hold of an opportunity. The longer the fight dragged on, the more opportunities he would have at the very beginning. Along the way, several of Chu Chaoyun's opponents had been forced into a corner by Chu Chaoyun. Before they could execute their best moves, they had already been defeated. Taking advantage of the opening in Xianyuan Zhantian's Berserk Dragon Burst, Chu Chaoyun launched his counterattack. Since then, he had been at the upper hand. He launched a chain of attacks accompanied by flickering golden light, not stopping at a single one. I can't drag this out. Xianyuan Zhantian felt wary. The situation had not reached a point where it could not be salvaged yet. However, if this continued, the rhythm of the battle would fall into Chu Chaoyun's control. At that time, even if Xianyuan Zhantian did not want to lose, he would be defeated. He might end up like the others, not even having the chance to execute his best moves. I am the Yellow Sky's son, the king of the four seas. The might of a king, sweeping through everything before me. Xianyuan Zhantian roared in his heart and finally brought out his state of kingship. In that instant, 81 pillars of wave shot up into the sky from the vast sea behind him. The entire sea surged up, and the vast state of kingship surged out. This caused Xianyuan Zhantian's aura to change. The heavenly war halberd swept out like a roaring flood dragon. Shock flashed in Chu Chaoyun's eyes. He immediately sent out a screen of golden swords before retreating. Boom! 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 The rage of a king, splattering the mountains and rivers with blood. The screen of swords that Chu Chaoyun sent out did not have any effect. The heavenly war halberd tore through the screen of swords without any fear and struck the sword in front of Chu Chaoyun's chest. The chi and blood in Chu Chaoyun's body trembled endlessly as he retreated. When he landed, he left 2 3-centimeter deep footprints in the ground. I did not expect his state of kingship to have already reached such a level. He does not even need a moment to change it. Chu Chaoyun adjusted his breathing for a while and thought to himself, if I make a mistake, the situation will be gone. After Xianyuan Zhantian brought out the state of kingship, his strength instantly increased. His aura reached an oppressive level as he looked coldly at Chu Chaoyun. Xianyuan Zhantian roared ferociously. Receive my move. Point to the heavens. Trample on the earth. The four seas surged as Xianyuan Zhantian pointed his heavenly war halberd at the sky. A berserk energy surged out. A formless energy shot out from the tip of the halberd and tore a small hole in the wind cloud barrier. Even inferior grade martial monarchs could not break the wind cloud barrier. Unexpectedly, Xianyuan Zhantian broke it with one point of his halberd. The expressions of the several martial monarchs in the city lord's residence changed. Chapter 596. Dragon Sealing City Lord, Zhong Liang, said sullenly, this fellow's strength and sharpness are comparable to some inferior grade martial monarchs. The more horrifying thing was yet to come. Xianyuan Zhantian pointed his halberd forward and stomped heavily on the ground with his right foot. A long crack appeared on the wind cloud platform and quickly spread out. The huge wind cloud platform instantly split in half. Using the huge rebound force from his foot, Xianyuan Zhantian's speed broke through Mach 4, reaching the level of martial monarch. In a flash, he arrived before Chu Chaoyun. Life-extinguishing, blood-reversing sword. Chu Chaoyun's reaction was even faster than the eyes of the cultivators in the spectator stands. The instant Xianyuan Zhantian took 7 steps, Chu Chaoyun let go of his sword. Then, he quickly drew a golden circle with his right palm. In an instant, 8 beams of light descended from the sky. At this moment, Chu Chaoyun's eyes turned completely golden. He gave off a feeling of nobility, honor, strength, and pride. Go! Xianyuan Zhantian smacked his palm heavily on the sword hilt floating in front of him. The golden pillar of light quickly elongated, just in time to welcome Xianyuan Zhantian, who was charging over with an aura of supremacy. Dang! Xianyuan Zhantian moved so fast that no one could see him in the air. Under the pressure of the golden light, he reappeared with his shield. The sword that followed immediately struck Xianyuan Zhantian. The timing of that sword strike was extremely precise. It was like a spiritual sword strike, magnificent and unmatched. Chu Chaoyan had struck the weak point of Xianyuan Zhantian's move. Chu Chaoyan easily broke the halberd move that pointed at the sky and stomped on the ground in a few moves. Ha ha ha! Unexpectedly, you can break my point to the heavens, drawing earth like this. What an eye-opener! What an eye-opener! In that case, receive another move from me. Xianyuan Zhantian felt extremely delighted. He did not feel dispirited at having his trump card broken. He laughed loudly and sent out all sorts of strong trump cards with the support of the state of kingship. Amidst the surging waves, he attacked Chu Chaoyan. Every move of Xianyuan Zhantian's was not inferior to point to heaven trampling on the earth. Several cracks appeared on the wind cloud platform. The speed at which the wind cloud platform recovered could not keep up with Xianyuan Zhantian's speed of destruction. Chu Chaoyan didn't panic. His eyes were filled with endless golden light. 8 rays of golden light enveloped him. As he brandished his sword, he looked like a god walking in the world. Xiao Chun brought out the might of the state of light to an inconceivable level. He clashed head-on with Xianyuan Zhantian's state of kingship, not giving way at all, breaking all of Xianyuan Zhantian's moves. I have not felt so satisfied in a long time. You managed to break through 18 of my trump cards. Chu Chaoyan, if you can receive my next move, then I, Xianyuan Zhantian, can only concede defeat. Xianyuan Zhantian roared loudly and said, "Until the end of time, never ending." The surrounding ocean began to change strangely. First, it turned into a river, then into a lake, and finally into a small stream. In the end, the boundless ocean turned into an endless plain, and there were many farmlands on the plain. In that instant, all the cultivators watching saw time flow. The vast ocean slowly turned into mulberry fields. The strange transformation made people truly feel the meaning of the end of the world. The prosperity of the world was like a fleeting cloud. When facing such a long time, everyone felt insignificant for some reason. Even a vast ocean could turn into mulberry fields. What did a person count for? However, there was always an exception to everything. Amidst the vicissitudes of time, there was a person who never stopped. After the tempering of 10,000 years, the state of kingship on his body gained an ancient and heavy air, becoming several times stronger. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years have passed. Until the end of time, I am still here. The state of kingship, never ending. Using the state of kingship, Xianyuan Zhantian tempered his state of kingship for 10,000 years in one breath. Then, he quickly made his move. Just thinking about it made everyone tremble in fear. How was one supposed to block such a horrifying attack? The ancient aura on the halberd made everyone feel incredibly heavy, like a mountain pressing down on them. The heavy state of kingship leaked out of Xianyuan Zhantian's control. This aura immediately tore small spatial tears in space. Sima Lingxian frowned slightly. This was the first time a martial technique that he could not understand appeared in the wind cloud platform. He could not help but sink into deep thought. Suddenly, inspiration flashed in his mind. Sima Lingxian muttered to himself, "So, that is how it is. I nearly got frightened by him. He is not a true sage. How can he materialize a 10,000-year mysterious phenomenon? He only copied the state of kingship and simulated it. This mysterious phenomenon can only last for 3 breaths. However, even so, it is already very strong. With the 10,000-year state of kingship, Chu Chaoyan will definitely lose." In contrast to Sima Lingxuan's opinion, Xiao Chun shook his head. He did not think highly of this move, but he did not say anything. When facing this peak halberd strike, Chu Chaoyan's expression finally turned grave. Chu Chaoyun's right hand quickly formed ancient hand seals, and the 8 pillars of light descending from the sky gathered together. Then, the light scattered and poured into Chu Chaoyun's body. This gave the golden light on Chu Chaoyun's body a texture. Xiao Chan was slightly stunned. He quickly sent out his spiritual sense and said softly, "Incredible." Unexpectedly, he managed to condense his essence into a solid state. I thought that I was the only one under martial monarch who could do that. At this moment, Chu Chaoyun was completely golden from head to toe. His holy and proud aura became even denser. As the light gathered, Chu Chaoyun did not move at all. He looked like a golden statue carved by a divine craftsman. Seeing his opponent not moving, Xianyuan Zhantian had a strange feeling in his heart. However, this 10,000-year state of kingship could only last for one breath. This was Xianyuan Zhantian's killing move. If his opponent did not lose, he would suffer a strong backlash and lose his combat prowess. He could only continue fighting. There was no other way. Kassier. When the heavenly war halberd was less than half a meter away from Chu Chaoyun, who had turned into a golden statue that looked like it had been there since ancient times, moved. The light gathered on Chu Chaoyun's body suddenly burst out. All 321 acupoints in his body gave off a bright light. Every acupoint gave off millions of strands of light. The 300-odd acupoints all merged together. The boundless light layered over each other, so many that it was impossible to count. There were millions, 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 billions. On the wind cloud platform, Chu Chaoyun was like a blazing sun, giving off a piercing golden light. Eternal light. Chu Chaoyun chanted softly. When he opened his mouth, golden syllables drifted out. They were like divine sounds, solemn, solemn, and inviolable. The sword in Chu Chaoyun's hand moved as fast as lightning. The complicated sword art should not have been able to be seen with the naked eye. However, under the endless layers of golden light, every one of Chu Chaoyun's actions was broken down. Every time Chu Chaoyun swung his sword, time paused. It was like another Chu Chaoyun had appeared in the world. Amid the layers of light, Chu Chaoyun swung his sword a total of 99,900 times. Every time he swung his sword, he used his full power. Unexpectedly, the eternal light and unending to the end of time had similar results. The cultivators and the spectator stands immediately felt the similarities and could not help but feel excited. Originally, they thought that Xianyuan Zhantian had used unending to the end of time, tempering his state of kingship for 10,000 years in the blink of an eye. Who knew? The silent Chu Chaoyun executed eternal light and also swung his sword 9,900 times in that instant. There was no way to tell who would win or lose. The countless figures merged together in the blink of an eye and gave off a bright light. Chu Chaoyun's eternal light, which contained the might of 99,900 sword strikes, clashed with Xianyuan Zhantian's unending to the end of time, which he had tempered for 10,000 years. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The crowd, who had been watching closely, could not react in time. They did not even have time to hear the sound of the explosion. The instant the two of them executed their killing moves, a strong energy burst forth. That energy surpassed the two's control. Xianyuan Zhantian did not have time to react. He shot back like a cannonball with a whoosh. He broke through the strong wind cloud barrier and landed in one of the spectators' stands without losing any momentum. A rumbling explosion resounded, and many people were thrown off their feet. Several cultivators were caught up in the shock waves, suffering from an unexpected calamity. They immediately fainted from their severe injuries. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, just as Chu Chaoyun was about to be knocked back by that energy, a beam of golden light descended from the sky and exploded. Then, another beam of golden light descended. A total of 9 beams of golden light soared into the sky. When the beams of light exploded, they managed to negate that unbelievably strong impact. Chu Chaoyun stood on the wind cloud platform with a pale complexion. He panted slightly, and his expression was extremely unsightly. His clothes were tattered. The golden light had already vanished long ago. His holy aura was no longer pure. Although he was in a sorry state, he still stood on the wind cloud platform. Compared to Xianyuan Zhantian, who had been knocked out of the wind cloud platform, his fate unknown, victory was clear. When the hundreds of thousands of spectators saw this scene, They were all dumbfounded. They had not expected a duel below Martial Monarch to cause such a huge commotion. Even the wind-cloud barrier could not withstand it. The referee was extremely shocked as well. However, he was very experienced and quickly recovered his wits. He said, "Chu Chaoyan wins. You gained 2 points." Only after a long time did the crowd react. They all sighed. Things have really changed. A duel between half-step martial monarchs actually caused such a commotion. It is no weaker than an inferior-grade martial monarch. Bai Qi's four-season saber technique's third move nearly broke the wind-cloud barrier. If he had used the fourth or fifth move, this wind-cloud barrier would not have been able to stop him. That Simo Ling Xian definitely has the strength to break the wind-cloud barrier as well. If these fellows advance to martial monarch, then the martial monarchs of the older generation will not be able to compete with them. I have a feeling that the doors to the Kunlun realm will open in this five-nation youth competition. The envoys from the previous five-nation youth competition will come. Amid the clamor, Xiao Chun had already closed his eyes and started resting. Chu Chaoyan's strength had finally bottomed out. In this case, he would no longer fear anyone in this five-nation youth competition. The path to the peak was within reach. Next match, Xiao Chun versus Bai Qi. In the 95th round, it was finally Xiao Chun's turn. This time, his opponent was the noble clan disciple known as the strongest bladesman of the younger generation, Bai Qi. Chapter 597. The two genius bladesmen finally clashed. Let's see how far Xiao Chun can push Bai Qi. There are still 2 moves of the four-season saber technique that he has not used yet. The Winter Saber, and the final cycle of seasons. I wonder what other trump cards Xiao Chun has. Without the four-season saber technique, with Xiao Chun's 60% comprehended saber intent, he would be able to deal with Bai Qi. He would even have a good chance of victory. How unfortunate. They are both bladesmen, but he ran into Bai Qi, who has the four-season saber technique. Being able to comprehend 60% comprehended saber intent is sufficient to prove that Xiao Chun's talent as a bladesman is stronger than Bai Qi's. However, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's accumulations are weaker. Although Xiao Chun had a winning streak and the strength he displayed was unfathomable, the crowd still did not think highly of him against Bai Qi. This was because Bai Qi had the four-season saber technique and had practiced it to great perfection. There were many aspects to a cultivator's combat prowess. Cultivation was the foundation. Martial techniques could bring out this foundation to its greatest effect. For example, if a person's foundation was 1,000 martial techniques, if they had a strong martial technique, they would be able to bring out 100%, even 200%. Just a little bit more, and he would only be able to bring out 70% of the martial technique's power, or even half of it. Strong martial techniques were the dreams of all cultivators. This was also one of the important reasons why the great sects could attract so many genius cultivators. Aside from some hidden places waiting for people to discover the strong martial techniques in the world, the ones that were publicly known were all in the hands of the great sections. Without a doubt, the Bai clan was a noble clan that could rival a great sect. The four-season saber technique was a martial technique that could bring out 200% of its power, maybe even 3 times. In the crowd's opinion, if Xiao Chun did not have a 60% comprehended saber intent, he would not be a match for Bai Qi with the strength he displayed. He would not even be able to receive one move. 60% comprehended saber intent added some variables to this battle, attracting the crowd's attention. On the Wind Cloud platform, a strong fighting spirit burned in Bai Qi's heart. The sound of sabers humming appeared in the depths of his eyes. The sharp saber will turn into a ray of unparalleled sharpness, piercing through the obstruction of the void like a sharp knife, shooting toward Xiao Chun. The formless gaze seemed to have substance, bringing with it gusts of wind as it slowly moved toward Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun smiled faintly, and the saber intent gushing from his eyes whistled out. The slowly approaching wind stopped between the two of them, and then suddenly exploded. Clang! In the void, there was the crisp sound of weapons clashing. The berserk saber intent pierced through the wind cloud barrier and scattered in all directions. Several cultivators nearby could not help but tighten their grip on their weapons. They were evenly matched. In terms of aura, no one was able to gain any advantage. However, this was not the result that Xiao Chen wanted. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes, and the saber intent that Xiao Chen sent out suddenly condensed into a line like an invisible saber. Chi-chi, the saber intent tore through the air, giving off a piercing screech. It scattered Bai Chi's aura in one go and carried the might of the 60% comprehended saber intent as it flew forward. Surprise appeared in Bai Chi's eyes. Without much time to think, he could only tilt his head slightly. Hu Chi, the saber intent turned into a formless energy that brushed past Bai Chi's face. His fine black hair slowly drifted down. When Bai Chi saw his fine black hair drift down, he was extremely shocked. In a clash of auras, Xiao Chen defeated him without any suspense. Bai Chi looked at Xiao Chen again, becoming more cautious. He said, 60% comprehended saber intent. Your talent in the saber technique is indeed stronger than mine. If you have another 2 years and you become a martial monarch, I will not be a match for you. When one became a martial monarch, all the essence in one's body would be refined into quintessence. That would be sufficient to resist the power of the cycle of seasons. The advantage of the 4-season saber technique would not be that great. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm. He did not deny the other party's words. He said calmly, "Do you want to wait another 2 years? You will know soon enough." When the cultivators in the spectators' stands saw Xiao Chen's calm expression, they were surprised. They said doubtfully, "Strange, where does this Xiao Chen get such big words from? It is like he is very confident and does not care about Bai Chi at all." Seeing Xiao Chen's attitude, Bai Chi's face sank. He said coldly, "White-robed bladesman, don't overestimate yourself. I was just flattering you. Don't really think that you are my match." Xiao Chen placed his right hand on his saber hilt and said indifferently, "I have never overestimated myself. You're not my match now. 2 years from now, you will be even less of a match for me. Since you are not going to make a move, I will." Kassiye. After Xiao Chen spoke, he drew his lunar shadow saber. Strong winds gathered from all directions. Clouds churned in the sky, heading for Xiao Chen's head. Winds blew everywhere, and clouds gathered. This was the starting stance of the lightning tribulation saber technique. As Xiao Chen moved, he arrived before Bai Chi in a few flashes. Xiao Chen infused his 60% comprehended saber intent with the momentum of wind and clouds as he charged forward. Bai Chi quickly drew his saber and brought out his peak small perfection saber intent to its limits. He shouted, "Heaven-breaking saber technique, first move." Dang! The sabers clashed, and Xiao Chen pressed forward gently. A surging force surged over. Bai Chi felt the might of the 60% comprehended saber intent head-on and was forced back by more than 20 meters. Dang! 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 After gaining the upper hand in one move, Xiao Chen did not hesitate. His entire body turned into a saber, radiating a sharp light as he executed all sorts of attacks. When Xiao Chen brought out his 60% comprehended saber intent, its might was startling. Bai Chi, who was not mentally prepared, was caught off guard. Retreat, retreat, retreat again and again. Before Xiao Chen's overwhelming aura, Bai Chi could not gather the momentum of his heaven-breaking 18 saber techniques. In that instant, he retreated more than 200 meters. Bai Chi's expression turned cold as he no longer held back. He brought out the quintessence that he had successfully refined. The saber immediately gave off a dazzling blue light. As the saber light danced about, tiny, pitch-black cracks appeared in the air. This greatly increased the might of this move, and its aura more than doubled. Essence and quintessence. There was a difference of one word, but there was a world of difference. Just a fifth of quintessence already had such might. It was hard to imagine how horrifying the strength of martial monarchs who had refined all their essence into quintessence would be. Heaven-breaking 18 saber techniques. 16th saber technique, furious chopping the heavens. Back off! Bai Chi roared ferociously. He wanted to use the quintessence to turn the situation around. Xiaochen did not show any fear. His eyes turned scarlet, and a horrifying state of massacre spread out. It merged with the peak state of thunder, and the lunar shadow saber gave off a strange purple-red light. The one retreating is you. Winds and clouds gather, thunder everywhere, heed my call. Earthly lightning, tribulation. The 60% comprehended saber intent, the peak state of massacre, and the peak state of thunder all merge together. The earthly lightning tribulation of the lightning tribulation saber technique burst out at this moment. The strong energy contained in the saber was enough to make one tremble. Its aura was no weaker than Bai Qi's. In fact, it was slightly stronger. Boom! A purple bolt of lightning descended from the thundercloud whirlpool above. Xiaoqin's earthly lightning tribulation struck Bai Qi's saber heavily. Bang! 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 Sparks flew from the tip of the saber. Xiaoqin did not stop moving. He pressed his saber against his opponent's saber, forcing Bai Qi to move back frantically. Shock flashed in Bai Qi's eyes. He was very surprised. What cultivation technique does this fellow cultivate? His essence can actually turn solid. Even with the two states, 60% comprehended saber intent, and 1/5 of my quintessence, I still cannot block him. Xiaochen has not even condensed quintessence, and he is already so strong. What will happen when he starts refining quintessence? Xiaochen forced Bai Qi back again. The power of thunder behind Xiaochen had already completely formed, reaching its peak. Thunderclouds churned, and the sky changed color. A heavy and oppressive atmosphere spread out, making everyone feel like a lightning tribulation was about to descend. Furthermore, Xiaochen was the emotionless heavenly Tao that executed the lightning tribulation. Heavenly lightning chop. Xiaochen executed the second move of the lightning tribulation saber technique. The white-robed Xiaochen's body gave off a bright purple light. When he swung his saber, it turned into heavenly lightning descending from the sky. Bai Qi's eyes flickered. He finally made up his mind to temporarily give up on fighting Xiaochen. He brandished his saber and took a defensive stance. Bang! Like a celestial being, Xiaochen swung his saber horizontally. There was a dull sound, and blood leaked out of a corner of Bai Qi's mouth as he was knocked into the air. From the start of the competition until now, Xiaoqin's aura flourished, his sharpness unparalleled. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen suppressed Bai Qi all the way, not giving him any opportunities. He forced Bai Qi into a sorry state, forcing him to retreat again and again without any chance to retaliate. Since the start of the elimination round, Bai Qi had never been in such a difficult and wretched state. The cultivators in the spectator stands were all startled. This seemed to be different from what they had expected. This Xiaochen is extraordinarily strong. If he did not have the four-season saber technique, Bai Qi would have lost for sure. However, it is really unfortunate for Xiaochen. Indeed, if Xiaochen had another 2 years, the result of today's battle would definitely be different. Seeing Xiaochen's strength, several people sighed softly, feeling even more pity for him. The moment the four-season saber technique was executed, the situation immediately turned around. Even someone as strong as Yu Qinzi could not change the result. How could Xiaochen do it? Right now, Bai Qi was probably waiting for Xiaochen to finish executing the lightning tribulation saber technique and his momentum to weaken. Then, he would execute the four-season saber technique to reverse the situation. As the crowd spoke, Xiaochen finally executed the final move of the lightning tribulation saber technique, the divine lightning tribulation. Thunderclouds covered the sky, making it dark. It was like the end of the world. The heavy atmosphere made breathing difficult. When Xiaochen swung his saber, there was only a flash of dazzling purple light in the sky. Countless golden deities in the thundercloud whirlpool above shouted, "Mighty heavenly might! All those who defy it will be killed without mercy." The sound waves spread out, adding a trace of divine might to the aura of Xiaochen's saber strike. If it were the heavenly saber pavilion's founding ancestor executing it, this saber strike would be covered in golden electric light, filled with divine might. Bai Qi's expression turned grave. He did not dare to be careless. He drew out all the quintessence in his body and formed a thick quintessence shield in front of him. Bang! Xiao Chun, who was high in the sky earlier, landed before Bai Qi with a flash of electric light. The divine lightning tribulation arrived as planned. Chapter 598. A startling explosion resounded. In that instant, the saber Qi tore a long crack in the tough wind cloud platform. The crack continued to extend, and in the blink of an eye, it split the wind cloud platform in half. This saber strike knocked Bai Qi back like a cannonball. Cracks spread across the quintessence shield on his body. It lasted for 3 breaths of time before shattering. However, because of these 3 breaths of time, the might of this divine lightning tribulation decreased significantly. Bai Qi crashed into the wind cloud barrier and vomited a large mouthful of blood. Then, he fell to the ground with a pah sound. The electric light vanished, and the strong wind stopped blowing. After Xiao Chun executed the divine lightning tribulation, the might of the wind and thunder slowly vanished. The wind cloud platform regained its calm. Only the dragon Qi that came out from the cracks still showed the horrifying might of the earlier move. Ha ha ha! The lightning tribulation saber technique truly lives up to its reputation. However, in the end, it did not kill me, Bai Qi. Bai Qi's hair was disheveled, and his clothes were in tatters. However, he started laughing maniacally, venting all the grievances he had suffered since the start of the competition. Bai Qi's eyes were filled with vigor, and a strong fighting spirit spread out in his heart. He did not feel dispirited at all. Xiao Chun, since I became famous, I have never been in such a sorry state. You have thoroughly infuriated me. Now that your momentum is exhausted, prepare to suffer my Bai Qi's rage. The first spurt of energy was like a tiger's. The second spurt of energy weakened, and the third spurt of energy exhausted. This was the effect that Bai Qi wanted. He was waiting for Xiao Chen's aura to reach its peak. Once Xiao Chen's aura reached its peak, Xiao Chen would not be able to defeat him. The instant Xiao Chen's aura fell, Bai Qi would use the 4-season saber technique to deal a lightning-quick strike. Then, everything would be over. Xiao Chen would taste the feeling of falling from heaven to hell in an instant. This was the best way to deal a heavy blow. Not only could he defeat his opponent in the wind cloud platform, but he could also cause his opponent to lose confidence, planting a heart demon in him and preventing him from making any progress in his saber techniques. It's over. Bai Qi is going to execute the 4-season saber technique. Someone in the spectator's stands could not help but sigh. The result was obvious. The many elders of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion all showed extremely anxious expressions. Jiang Qi said helplessly, "Our Heavenly Saber Pavilion has wronged him. If we had a martial technique that could rival the 4-season saber technique, Bai Qi would not be able to be so arrogant." Bai's pure and adorable face was filled with worry. Her bright eyes were glistening with tears, and her brows were filled with worry. Kim Taeho flapped his golden fan and sighed. He covered his eyes with the fan and said, "Sigh, forget it. I'm not going to watch anymore." Little brother Xiao Chun still doesn't understand the essence of being a person. If it was me, I would just disdain to fight and admit defeat. That would piss that guy off. The spring water flowed leisurely, warm at first, then cold at the next. Bai Qi muttered as he silently executed the first move of the 4-season saber technique. The sound of gushing water immediately resounded in the arena. The surging river seemed both warm and cold. Bai Qi's clothes fluttered, and his essence surged without end. Using the surging power of the cycle, Xiao Chun charged at the weakened Xiao Chun, who had a weakened aura. Perhaps it was because Bai Qi had been beaten up by Xiao Chen earlier, to the point where he could not retaliate at all. He felt too sullen. Bai Qi's originally gentle saber strike was filled with resentment. The power of the cycle could not be blocked by a celestial being. When this saber strike was executed, a boundless shockwave surged toward Xiao Chun. The wind and clouds gathered in the wind cloud platform again. Xiao Chun had a calm gaze. He did not feel any joy or sorrow when facing the first move of the 4-season saber technique. His heart remained calm and unperturbed. However, when the saber was 1 meter away from him, Xiao Chun casually took a step forward. One step, just one step. Xiao Chen's aura, which had already fallen to rock bottom, suddenly erupted with a might even more ferocious than the divine lightning tribulation. Boom! Thunder roared. In that instant, everything came to life. Birds and beasts cried out. Xiao Chun swung his saber, executing the four-season saber techniques, spring, thunder chop, as well. Pu-si-ai, pu-si-ai. The sound of a flowing river resounded. When the two sabers clashed, an even stronger power of the cycle, containing an even more perfected state of spring, blasted Bai Qi back again in one breath. Bai Qi's momentum was ferocious. However, the momentum of his flying back was even faster than his momentum. No one could react in time. Bai Qi's body crashed into the wind cloud barrier. The force was so great that cracks appeared in the wind cloud barrier behind him. What's going on? What just happened? Did I see wrongly? Why is it Bai Qi who flew back again? Shouldn't Xiao Chun be in trouble after he executed the four-season saber technique? However, why is it that the one knocked back is Bai Qi? Everything happened too quickly. The spectators were dumbfounded. They could not understand what happened. They were not the only ones who could not understand. The martial monarch powerhouses and the city lord's residents exchanged glances with each other, not daring to be too sure. However, the expressions of the Bai clan elders changed drastically. The first elder, who led the group, stared blankly. He muttered to himself, "Four-season saber technique? How can this be?" Bai Qi vomited a mouthful of blood and looked at Xiao Chun. He muttered, "That's impossible. How did you learn my Bai clan's four-season saber technique? Furthermore, you are stronger than me. I don't believe it." Spring is over, summer is coming. The merciless flowing fire illuminates the world. My heart is higher than the blazing sun. Bai Qi roared ferociously and executed the second move of the four-season saber technique. He was like the blazing sun, his aura swallowing up everything. His heart was higher than the sky as he charged forward with a boundless aura. Spring is over, summer is coming. A blazing sun stands high in the sky, burning through the world. Xiao Qin shouted and took another step forward. He turned into the blazing sun, burning through everything. The light he gave off was several times brighter than Bai Qi's. Bang! The two blazing suns clashed with the power of the cycle of seasons. Two strands of saber qi flew to the side, and a crack immediately appeared on the wind cloud platform. Together with the earlier crack, the wind cloud platform split into four pieces. The blazing sun that belonged to Bai Qi lasted for a while before it scattered. Xiao Qin's burning to desolation knocked Bai Qi back with a loud bang. The wind cloud barrier cracked, looking like it would shatter at any moment. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Wounds covered Bai Qi's body from head to toe. His eyes filled with disbelief. Originally, Bai Qi thought that after he executed the four-season saber technique, he would be able to turn the situation around. Unexpectedly, he ended up in an even more miserable state than before. Such a huge drop was like falling from heaven to hell. How could Bai Qi be willing to accept this? The merciless wind, summer is coming. The world is like a leaf, too sentimental. Even at death's door, they still cling to the branch. The autumn wind rustles endlessly, sweeping away all the lovers in the world. The autumn wind rustles. The heavenly Tao is merciless. Despite his severely injured body, Bai Qi executed the third move of the four-season saber technique. The wind rustles, the rain falls incessantly. The cool wind blows, and the autumn waters ripple. The fated person smiles faintly. I'll give you a gentle saber strike. Do you dare to receive it? Xiao Chun executed his third move at nearly the same time as Bai Qi. Two soft hums rose and fell on the wind cloud platform, layered over each other, giving everyone a vague, poetic feeling. Boom! Before Bai Qi could get close to Xiao Chun, a strand of white saber qi from the lunar shadow saber knocked him back. That seemingly soft saber qi hid a boundless toughness. When it faced the unyielding, merciless autumn wind, It broke the hardness with gentleness. It shattered Bai Chi's saber technique and struck Bai Chi's body. The force from the gentle wind knocked Bai Chi back with a shio sound. Bai Chi crashed through the wind cloud barrier and turned into a beam of light. Then he landed in the spectator stands with a huge force. Before the cultivators could react, they were all severely injured. When the hundreds of thousands of cultivators saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. Bai Chi was a genius bladesman. He was ranked second in the previous five-nation youth competition. He had a powerful saber technique, the four-season saber technique, and could compete with Sima Lingxian. However, at this moment, someone knocked him off the wind cloud platform. His fate was unknown. He was utterly defeated. As for the white-robed bladesman in the arena, his clothes fluttered in the wind. He had a calm expression, not showing any excitement at all. It was like he did not care about Bai Chi from the start. It is as he said, he did not overestimate himself. Bai Chi is indeed not a match for him. The difference is too great. Indeed, from the start to the end, he did not gain any advantage at all. He did not even get a chance to execute the final two moves of the four-season saber technique. With such strength, he is qualified to challenge Sima Lingxian. Aside from Chu Chaoyan, there is now another person who can fight against Sima Lingxian. We did not come to this five-nation youth competition for nothing. The crowd thought back to what Xiao Chan said before the fight started. He did not overestimate himself. When the crowd thought back, they discovered that he was not boasting. He had just been indifferent. No one had expected such a scene to occur. In the spectator stands, Sima Lingxian, who had maintained a relaxed expression, could not help but stand up. As he looked at Xiao Chun, he felt that he was unfathomable. His confidence, which had never wavered at this moment, stirring up a boundless storm around him. Amid the surging wind, the Sima clan's first elder's face sank. He waved his long sleeves and collected the wild storm back into his sleeves. Then he said indifferently, "Lingxian, your heart is in a mess." Sima Lingxian recovered his wits and calmed his emotions. He said, "Many thanks to First Elder for making a move. However, it is good that my heart is in a mess. If I am always like an unmoving ancient well, I will not be able to strengthen my mental state. This Xiao Chan is indeed a good whetstone." The First Elder smiled faintly and said, "It is good that you think that way." As Chu Chaoyan looked at Xiao Chun, a golden flame flashed in his eyes. He revealed a grave expression. It was unknown what he was planning. "Xiao Chun wins. You get another 2 points." The referee announced the results of the match unhurriedly. At this moment, Xiao Chen's golden dragon had finished swallowing up Bai Chi's 25-meter-long golden dragon. His golden dragon flickered with light. Now it was 27 meters long, equal to Sima Lingxuan's. When the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's people saw this scene, they revealed dreamy expressions. Jiang Qi muttered, "I can't see through it. I really can't see through it at all." Bai's eyes were filled with tears of excitement. His innocent face showed both crying and smiling. He hugged Mu Xinya, who was beside him, and said, "Elder sister Xinya, elder brother Xiao Chun won. He won." Mu Xinya shook her head slightly and revealed a bitter smile. She felt very complicated. Unexpectedly, the youth from many years ago had grown to such a level. Chapter 599. The Bai clan elders looked at Xiao Chun with hostile gazes. They wanted to capture him on the spot and force him to tell them how he learned the four-season saber technique. However, even though they were upset, they did not dare to act rashly. For the past 10,000 years, the sects that caused trouble during the five-season competition all did not have a good ending. In the 95th round, after this battle, all the other battles were inferior, giving people a dull and uninteresting feeling. Even the remaining matches of the Giants were not worth watching. Occasionally, they would cast their gazes at Xiao Chun, who was resting with his eyes closed. As they discussed in low voices, they were filled with anticipation for Xiao Chen's next appearance. Would he give them another pleasant surprise? After this round of matches ended, only 3 of the 8 giants remained with consecutive victories. They were Xiao Chun, Sima Lingxian, and Chu Chaoyan. The number of people who could climb to the summit had shrunk once again. The champion of this five-nation youth competition would definitely be one of these three. As for Bai Qi, whom everyone had placed their hopes on, he had completely lost his qualifications to compete. There were still 5 rounds left. The three of them would meet sooner or later. It was just that no one knew who would fight first. Next match, Xiao Chun versus Xianyuan Zhantian. Xiao Qin's match started once again. The previously silent atmosphere of the crowd immediately turned lively. All sorts of discussions broke out. Although Xianyuan Zhantian had lost to Chu Chaoyun and lost his qualifications to compete for the first rank, his strength was clear for all to see. No one dared to doubt him. Be it his strong state of kingship or that wondrous martial technique that lasted until the end of time, Xianyuan Zhantian was definitely within the top 3 of the younger generation. If Xianyuan Zhantian's opponent was not Chu Chaoyun, even if he fought against Bai Qi, everyone believed that he had a high chance of victory. If Xianyuan Zhantian fought against Xiao Chun, he might be able to force out some of Xiao Chen's strength, allowing everyone to see through Xiao Chun. Bang! Xianyuan Zhantian did not hold back at all. The instant the match started, he struck the ground heavily with his heavenly war halberd. A vast state of kingship spread out like the sea. Point to the heavens, trample the earth. The surface of the sea surged, and 81 waves appeared. Xianyuan Zhantian pointed his finger at the sky and stomped the ground. He charged over with a berserk aura. Xiao Chun instantly merged the two states together with his 60% comprehended saber intent and executed Wu Kuei breaks the heavens. The saber created a long beam of light as it intercepted Xianyuan Zhantian in midair. Using technique to break force, Xiao Chun used the characteristics of Wu Kuei breaks the heavens to break the ferocious point to heaven and trample on the earth before its might reached its peak. Xiao Chun had never been a cultivator who only knew how to fight head-on. In terms of technique and eyesight, he did not lose to anyone. Taking the initiative, Xiao Chun continuously executed the lightning tribulation saber technique he had been storing up power for. Xiao Chun started an intense battle with Xianyuan Zhantian on the undulating sea. One side had the state of kingship, which ruled over the 4 seas. The other had a 60% comprehended saber intent and the state of thunder massacre. On the wind cloud platform, the two were locked in a stalemate. Waves surged and exploded wildly. Thunder rumbled endlessly as scarlet killing chi spread everywhere. Bang! The divine lightning tribulation knocked Xianyuan Zhantian back. Xiao Chun stood in midair, holding his saber with one hand as he faced the wind. Xianyuan Zhantian spun around and stabilized himself. Then he wiped the blood off his lips and smiled. It looks like other martial techniques do not pose any threat to you. Be careful. I'm going to use my killing move. In terms of pure offensive power, Unending Time is stronger than the first 3 moves of the 4-season saber technique. I really want to see how you'll deal with it. Right after Xianyuan Zhantian spoke, the vast sea behind him started to turn into the state of changing the sea into mulberry fields. Time was merciless. 10,000 years passed in a blink of an eye. Unending time. Only the eternal state of kingship remained, unending for 10,000 years, everlasting. The strong, mysterious phenomenon was completed in just one breath. The state of kingship wrapped around the heavenly war halberd, giving off an ancient and solemn aura. Xiao Chun shook his head to himself. This move was indeed strong. However, to him, its flaws were too obvious. 10,000 years passed in a blink of an eye. In that case, if Xiao Chun could attack in half a blink of an eye, the other party's mysterious phenomenon would break by itself. A fierce purple flame burned in Xiao Chen's right eye, forming a purple arrow that quickly elongated. This move was called the Purple Thunder Arrow. It was Xiao Chen's fastest martial technique. After his Purple Thunder Divine incantation advanced to the 6th layer, his speed broke through the barrier of martial kings. There was no strong explosive force or offensive power. There was only a horrifying penetrative power and an even more horrifying speed. Xiao! Just as the time in the blink of an eye was about to pass, the Purple Thunder arrow shot out, and a finger-sized bloody hole appeared in Xianyuan Zhantian's chest. The state of unending time also started to become unstable. Xiao Chun took advantage of this opportunity to rush forward. He executed the first move of the four-season saber technique, the spring thunder chop. Thunder rumbled, and the power of the cycle of seasons knocked Xianyuan Zhantian back, causing him to vomit blood. The so-called state of kingship that required 10,000 years to be tempered until the end of time easily broke before everyone's astonished gazes. 10,000 years is too long. I can only seize the moment. After defeating Xianyuan Zhantian, Xiao Qin's 27-meter-long golden dragon swallowed some of his energy. However, it did not seem to have changed much. Xiao Qin's golden dragon was already too big. Furthermore, Xianyuan Zhantian's golden dragon was weaker than Xiao Qin's. If there was any change, it would only be that it was brighter. The pair of golden dragon eyes sparkled with life. The golden dragon was very intelligent, giving off the feeling that it was alive. In this round, Sima Lingxuan's opponent was Wang Quan. Chu Chaoyan's opponent was Li Tianhua. Without any surprises, the two of them easily obtained victory. The 97th round began. While the cultivators in the spectator stands were admiring the exciting martial techniques, the people from the city lord's residence were anxiously discussing the order of their appearance. There were 3 cards on the main table. The names of 3 people were written in black: Sima Lingxian, Chu Chaoyan, and Xiao Chun. If there were no surprises, the champion of this 5-nation youth competition would be one of these 3 people. After this round of competition, there were only 3 rounds left in the competition. Which 2 of them would fight first was a matter that these people were discussing. The Dragon Sealing City's city lord, Zhong Liang, moved his right hand over the 3 cards. Clearly, this was not an easy decision to make. No matter which 2 of them fought first, the remaining one would inevitably gain some benefits. Zhong Liang withdrew his hand and said to the people beside him, "Did you all come to a conclusion? Let's hear it." A gray-robed old man said, replying to the city lord, "We all agree that Sima Lingxian needs to fight one of them first. From the start of the competition until now, he is the one who has revealed the least trump cards." Someone continued, "Xiao Chun revealed his 60% comprehended saber intent, the 4-season saber technique, the lightning tribulation saber technique, the state of massacre, and the state of thunder. Chu Chaoyan revealed his 50% comprehended sword intent, the peak state of light, the life-extinguishing blood-reversing sword technique, and the killing move, eternal light. As for Sima Lingxian, he has only revealed the Son of Heaven's sword technique, 60% comprehended sword intent, and the state of kingship. These are all powerful martial techniques that he learned 3 years ago. How could he have improved so little in 3 years?" Zhong Liang muttered to himself for a while. Then, he took out the card that represented Sima Lingxian. He asked, "Is the remaining person Xiao Chun or Chu Chaoyan?" "I feel that it is Xiao Chun. He defeated Bai Qi too easily." "I feel that it is Chu Chaoyan. He even dared to clash head-on with Xianyuan Zhantian's spear strike." Even Xiao Chun had to resort to trickery to break this move. Should it be Chu Chaoyan or Xiao Chun? With this, the people in front of the platform immediately split into 2 groups and started arguing nonstop. Zhong Liang frowned and said unhappily, "Stop arguing. Those in favor of letting Xiao Chun go first, raise your hand and decide." The 8 old men each made their decision. Then, 4 of them raised their hands to express their agreement. It was still a draw. When Zhong Liang saw the situation, he said, "In that case, count me in. Let Xiao Chun fight Sima Lingxian first." After Sima Lingxian spoke, he stacked Xiao Chen's card on top of Sima Lingxuan's. A grave expression flashed in his deep eyes. Zhong Liang said indifferently, "Consider it as wronging you. However, there is no such thing as absolute fairness in this world. A true expert will not bother with such rules and regulations. They will just keep winning." At this moment, Xiao Chun, who had just ascended the wind cloud platform, did not know that the city lord's residence had just made a decision that was disadvantageous to him. However, even if he knew, he would not care too much. It was as Zhong Liang said, he would just keep winning. Looking at the opponent, Xiao Chun revealed a relaxed expression on his delicate face. This was because his opponent was another old friend. Yu Chenxi wore a long pink dress as she stood on the wind cloud platform. Her spirited eyes looked at Xiao Chun. She could not help but feel somewhat rueful in her heart. The affairs of the world were unpredictable. There were always some things that one could not predict. There were also some people that one could not figure out. 2 years ago, when Yu Chenxi faced Xiao Chun, she did not even need to use her state to fight him to a draw. Now, even if she used her full power and performed exceptionally well, she would not be a match for him. Yu Chenxi recovered her wits. She smiled and said, "I'm afraid I can't use my full power against you now. Let's stop here." Even if she used her full power, she would lose. Even if she did not use it, she would still lose. Since that was the case, there was naturally no need to use her full power. Xiao Chun smiled gently and said, "Up to you. You make the first move." Yu Chenxi leaped up gently and punched with a cool breeze. However, she did not use her state of light and cloud, relying only on her movement technique and the morning sun fist. Bang! Holding the lunar shadow saber, Xiao Chun casually touched the ground. The hard wind cloud platform was like tofu, the scabbard sinking deep into it. Yu Chenxi did not use her state. She did not intend to use her saber, either. Her figure flashed as she used the dragon claw fist to clash with her opponent. Berserk Dragon. Vital chi flowed through Xiao Chen's bones. He clenched his right fist, and an azure dragon head roared ferociously. Then, he clashed with Yu Chenxi. Bang! 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 The two fists clashed. The berserk dragon roared ferociously, and light exploded. Soon, the two exchanged dozens of moves. Yu Chenxi was somewhat astonished to discover that she would not be able to take down Xiao Chun within a short time if she did not use her state. After another 100 moves, she still could not do anything to Xiao Chun. So, Yu Chenxi had no choice but to activate her state of light and cloud. A morning sun rose from the clouds. When she punched out, she knocked Xiao Chun back 100 meters. Chapter 600. Yu Chenxi looked at the lunar shadow saber stuck in the middle of the dueling ground and sighed. "I lost. Hee hee. However, in terms of fighting techniques, you are still inferior to me." After Xiao Chun finished speaking, he did not give Xiao Chun a chance to speak. After admitting defeat, he drifted off the wind cloud arena. Xiao Chun shook his head and smiled helplessly. After the golden dragon finished swallowing, he gently raised the lunar shadow saber and returned to his seat. He then closed his eyes and rested. Countless noises resounded in his ears, and the martial stage was filled with apprehension. Along with the end of round after round of matches, everyone's emotions were unprecedentedly high. After another 3 rounds of matches, the victor of this 5-nation youth competition would be decided. Who was the true dragon? Who would ascend to the peak? Who would become the bearer of luck? Who would lead the changes of this era? All of this would be revealed. The stage had already been set up, and the curtains were slowly pulled open. All that was left was for the main character to appear, and the show had just begun. The cultivators in the audience all felt extremely excited. They could not wait for the 3 giants to start fighting immediately. However, Xiao Chun remained calm, quietly waiting for the final 3 battles. After that, he would defeat all his opponents and stand at the peak of this sky dome realm. Next match, Bai Qi versus Chu Chaoyun. In the 98th round, the referee's rough and heavy voice slowly announced the results of the match between the two. Xiao Chun opened his eyes and looked at the 2 people in the arena. His eyes revealed a contemplative look. Of the 100 participants, there were still 3 whom Xiao Chun had not fought yet. They were Chu Chaoyun, the noble clan's Li Tianhua, and the top seed, Sima Lingxian. In the 98th round, Li Tianhua had entered the arena very early, and now Chu Chaoyun had also entered the arena. That was to say, Xiao Chun's opponent in this round was Sima Lingxian. Suddenly, Xiao Chun felt a strong gaze on him. He turned his head and saw that it was Sima Lingxian, who exuded a strong self-confidence. A pair of sharp eyes with the intent of a king pierced through the void and stared at him oppressively. "I will defeat you within 10 moves. 1 more move means I lose." The other party condensed his voice into a line and left behind words of confidence in Xiao Chen's ears. Then he retracted his gaze. Xiao Chen didn't mind. He said softly, "If you were really that confident, you wouldn't have left behind these words. If your heart is higher than the sky, why bother looking at us mortals?" Yin Kursin, who was at the side, felt that something was wrong. She said, "Xiao Chen, what's wrong? Did someone test you earlier?" Xiao Chen smiled and said calmly, "It's nothing. It's just that someone is trying to hide the fear in their heart. Let's watch the competition." The more confident a person was, the more they were afraid of failure. It was an unchanging principle since time immemorial. Now that Bai Qi had lost to Xiao Chen, there was basically no hope for him to fight for first place again. However, as long as he could defeat Chu Chaoyan, there was still hope for him to snatch the second place. Before Xiao Chen came, he had already expected that he would lose to Sima Lingxian. He had been prepared to only get second place. Although he had miscalculated and lost to Xiao Chen early, he still had to fight for the second place. Furthermore, he actually lost to an outsider in a competition of the four-season saber technique. No matter what, he could not lose this match. He had to prove himself with his full power. Begin. Right after the referee spoke, Bai Qi immediately made his move. He executed the first move of the four-season saber technique, unhurried spring water, suddenly warm then cold. Infused with the power of the cycle of seasons, Bai Qi turned into a surging river and surged towards Chu Chaoyan. Who? A strong wind blew on the wind cloud platform. A boundless aura suddenly soared, allowing everyone to feel the strength of the four-season saber technique once again. In the previous moment, everything was calm. In the next moment, when Bai Qi drew his saber, the winds and clouds changed. The sky changed color, and a boundless aura surged. Life-extinguishing, blood-reversing sword. Chu Chaoyan's gaze remained calm. He did not dare to be careless when facing this famous four-season saber technique. His sword left his hand and floated quietly in front of him. Chu Chaoyan opened his right palm and quickly drew a circle with his sword in the air. When the circle of swords closed, 8 beams of golden light descended from the sky above and encased him. Within the golden light, every piece of Chu Chaoyan's clothes and hair glowed with a boundless radiance. Xiao Chen gently patted the sword in the circle of light, and a dazzling beam of light immediately shot out. In that instant, the golden beam of light shone on Bai Qi, who was in midair. Bang! One could clearly see that the space behind Bai Qi had paused for an instant. The might of the samsara power had been forcefully resisted by the power contained in the golden light. Chu Chaoyan's face turned holy and pure. He let out a soft chant that sounded like a divine sound, and the 8 beams of light merged together. His eyes, the only pitch-black color in his body, also turned completely golden. The Yuan Qi in his body had completely materialized at this moment. The sword that belonged to him in the circle of swords turned into a beam of light and shot out. Everywhere it passed, space shattered and a pitch-black crack appeared. From a distance, it looked like someone had used a pencil to draw a black line on a piece of white paper. It was exceptionally eye-catching. When the crowd saw this scene, they were horrified. The essence in his body solidified. Unexpectedly, its might is equal to that of an inferior grade martial monarch's quintessence. What cultivation technique does this Chu Chaoyan cultivate? Xiao Chen did not show much shock in his eyes. He had guessed long ago that the cultivation technique Chu Chaoyan cultivated was a heaven-rank cultivation technique passed down in the Tianwu dynasty. Furthermore, it was of an extremely high rank. Many large sects would have some heaven-ranked martial techniques. However, since the destruction of the Tianwu dynasty, there had never been any heaven-ranked cultivation techniques circulating in the world. Dang! When the horrifying energy in the sword clashed with Bai Qi's saber, it immediately gave off a loud sound that resounded through the 9 heavens. The sound was so loud that it was deafening, shaking everyone's eardrums and temporarily deafening them. Blood leaked out of the corner of Bai Qi's mouth as he retreated 100 meters in the air. The momentum of the river and the power of the cycle of seasons vanished before this startling sword strike. Eternal light. Xu Chaoyan was the kind of person who would not let his opponent overtake him once he seized the opportunity. He leaped into the air, leaving behind a golden afterimage. Then he grabbed the sword in the air and instantly executed Eternal Light. The 321 acupoints in Xu Chaoyan's body suddenly opened and gave off a bright light. Every acupoint gave off thousands of beams of light. The light from the 300-odd acupoints overlapped. The boundless beams of light layered over each other, forming millions upon millions of them. Xu Chaoyan turned into a blazing golden sun. When one looked at it, they felt pain in their eyes. They did not dare to look at it directly. With the boundless beams of light overlapping, Xu Chaoyan sent out 99,900 sword strikes in one breath. The countless figures quickly overlapped. This was the eternal light that could defeat Xianyuan Zhantian's unending world to the end of time. The instant Bai Qi landed, it charged towards him with a dazzling light, flowing fire illuminating the world. Bai Qi fell helpless. He could only reduce the might of the four-season saber technique's second move by half and quickly clash. The time that Xu Chaoyan gave him was too short. He could not bring out the full might of the four-season saber technique. Boom! The golden light exploded, and Bai Qi vomited a mouthful of blood. Once again, Xu Chaoyan knocked him back. He crashed into the wind cloud barrier. His clothes were tattered, and he was in a sorry state. Damn it! All of Bai Qi's internal organs were severely damaged, and the skin on his body had been scorched by the light. Bai Qi felt extremely depressed and furious. Xu Chaoyan's strength had completely exceeded his expectations. He was almost at the same level as Xiao Chun. No, it was just the strength that Xiao Chun had shown. The current Xu Chaoyan was even stronger than Xiao Chun. The autumn wind rustled endlessly, sweeping away the lovers of the world. Bai Qi roared ferociously and drained all the remaining essence in his body. He seemed to have gone crazy, staking everything on this four-season saber technique's third move. The world was heartless. The great Tao was heartless. The autumn wind was endless, engulfing the world. Xu Chaoyan's expression did not change. As he floated in the air, he quickly formed ancient hand seals. Instantly, the thick, dark clouds above Dragon's Sealing City, which had not moved for 10,000 years, churned continuously, and a hole appeared. Inextinguishable divine light. After Xu Chaoyan finished forming the hand seals, he shouted. Immediately, 8 golden pillars of light descended from the hole, encasing him firmly. Divine might flowed on the pillars of light, forming an impenetrable defense. This was a move that had helped Xu Chaoyan stay on the wind cloud platform when he fought with Xianyuan Zhantian. Even the shockwave from the combined explosion of the unending to the end of time and the eternal light could not do anything to Xu Chaoyan. Kung Chong. Bai Qi's saber struck the pillars of light and gave off a metallic clang. That pillar of light containing divine might actually turn solid. What defensive move is this? Unexpectedly, it is so horrifying. With such a defensive move, aside from a martial monarch who can defeat Xu Chaoyan, perhaps there is some hope for the four-season saber technique's final move. However, in Bai Qi's current state, even the third move will be difficult. This does not feel like something a martial king can do. The divine might contained in the formless light is already strong enough. Unexpectedly, it turned solid. Startled cries came from the spectator stands, all of them filled with expressions of disbelief. The group of martial monarchs in the city lord's residence were all dumbfounded. They had not expected that the unremarkable move from back then would have such a strong defense. Zhong Liang looked at the cards on the table on which Xiao Chun and Sima Lingxian were stacked. He revealed a helpless expression and sighed. Unexpectedly, even I made an error in judgment. Sima Lingxian probably chose the wrong person for this match. It is too late. The next match between Xiao Chun and Sima Lingxian is about to begin. There is no more time to change it. Based on Xu Chaoyan's appearance, he definitely still has trump cards that he has not used yet. The move he is using now is exactly the same as when he fought Xinyuan Zhantian. The other old men sighed as well. No matter what the result of the match between Xiao Chun and Sima Lingxian was, the two of them would have to reveal their greatest trump cards. With all their trump cards exposed, they would definitely be at a disadvantage when facing Chu Chaoyun in the final match. Zhong Liang glanced at Chu Chaoyun, who did not suffer any damage from Bai Qi's third saber strike. He said softly, "Perhaps this is luck. However, in the end, it is still strength that speaks. He has the initiative, but he might not have the last laugh." Chapter 601. Bang! When the light scattered, Chu Chaoyun faced the weakened Bai Qi, who had exhausted his mind. Chu Chaoyun sheathed his sword and kicked Bai Qi away like he was a sandbag. Suppressing the shock in his heart, the referee announced the victor of this match. Then he said softly, "Next match, Xiao Chun versus Sima Lingxian." Xiao Chun was the greatest dark horse of the five-nation youth competition. Since the start of the elimination rounds, he had been victorious. Be it the inheritors of the 10 great sects, the absolute geniuses of the 8 noble clans, or even the newcomers, no one could defeat him. 60% comprehended saber intent, the 4-season saber technique, the state of massacre, and the state of thunder. No one knew how many trump cards he had or how deep his accumulations were. This was a disciple from a small sect in the Great Qi nation. No one knew how many secrets he had. Sima Lingxian was the champion of the previous 5-nation youth competition. He was the undisputed first seed of this 5-nation youth competition. Sima Lingxuan's state of kingship and Son of Heaven's sword technique had not been revealed since the start of the ranking competition. No one could see through him. Only the strong self-confidence in Sima Lingxuan's heart never wavered. He seemed to have a withdrawn glow. When the crowd looked at him, he stood out like a crane in a flock of chickens. Everyone could not help but lean closer to him. The accumulations of the Sima clan, Sima Lingxuan's exceptional talent, the reputation of the top swordsman of the Great Jin nation, and all sorts of glory made Sima Lingxuan's self-confidence grow. Instead, he gave off a feeling of arrogance and conceit. There were only 3 rounds left in the 5-nation youth competition. Now these two finally fought. After this match, one of them would not be able to become the champion. Neither of them could afford to lose. As long as they lost one match, they would immediately fall behind the other in points. They would not be able to catch up even if they wanted to. The moment the two of them appeared on the Wind Cloud platform, they instantly attracted everyone's attention. A super newcomer against a veteran giant. Who would emerge victorious? If this were before Xiao Chun defeated Bai Qi, no one would be optimistic about the outcome of this match. However, now that he executed the 4-season saber technique, which was even stronger than Bai Qi's, no one dared to come to a conclusion about this match. Even if they felt that Sima Lingxian had a higher chance of victory, they would not say it out loud. After more than 100 battles, Xiao Chun had created too many miracles. Every time, when everyone thought that his winning streak would come to an end, he would reverse the situation in one fell swoop. This caused those cultivators who had predicted that Xiao Chun would lose to be slapped in the face and rendered speechless. At this moment, how could they still dare to jump to conclusions? The scene was dead silent. No one made a sound, only countless gazes. He stared at the two people in the field with a fiery gaze, not daring to relax for even a moment. He was afraid that he would miss some wonderful scenes and regret it for the rest of his life. Xiao! Sima Lingxian waved his hand, and a simple and heavy black scabbard sheathed his sword. With a ka-cie sound, it embedded itself deep into the wind cloud platform between the two of them. Cracks spread out in all directions. Strands of dragon chi soared up from the wind cloud platform, accompanied by dragon roars, making the plain sword look extraordinary. The moment Sima Lingxian entered the wind cloud platform, he showed off his skills. The hard wind cloud platform was like mud to him, unable to withstand a single blow. You are very strong. Unfortunately, you ran into me, Sima Lingxian. No matter how strong you are, you can only fight for second place. It was like this for Bai Qi 3 years ago. It will be the same for you and Chu Chaoyan 3 years later. Nothing will change. Xiao Qin's delicate and handsome face did not change at all. He said indifferently, "I'm afraid that I will have to disappoint you this time." Sima Lingxian laughed loudly and said, "I have not made a move for a long time already. It seems like anyone dares to speak arrogantly to you. As I said earlier, if I cannot defeat you in 10 moves, I, Sima Lingxian, will lose this match." Who? Who? A strong wind blew and the clouds churned. Sima Lingxian reared his head back and laughed, appearing wild and unruly. As the winds blew and clouds churned, the vast state of kingship, together with the confidence in his heart that was even higher than the sky, formed a strong aura surging toward Xiao Chun. The heavy aura could make mountains bend and rivers flow in reverse. The mountains and rivers, for thousands of kilometers, were all under his control. Everything under the sky belonged to the king. If one dared to disobey, heaven and earth would not tolerate it. A clear ripple could be seen on the wind cloud platform. It compressed the space behind Sima Lingxian as it rushed toward Xiao Chun. If it were an ordinary person, just this aura would suppress them to the ground, unable to move at all. Just one gaze would be enough to make his opponent tremble in fear and defeat him. The power of wind and clouds, the state of kingship. Is Sima Lingxian going to use his full strength? He wants to defeat Xiao Chun in 10 moves. Only Sima Lingxian would not find a joke if he said that. Let's wait and see if it is as he says. The moment the aura appeared, the cultivators outside the wind cloud platform immediately felt the power contained in it. They were all shocked. When they heard Sima Lingxuan's words, they immediately felt excited, their blood surging. Who was Xiao Chun? He was someone who could easily defeat by qi. Yet, Sima Lingxian said that he would defeat him in 10 moves, mocking him for being arrogant and not worth mentioning. A strong wind blew. Before the aura, everything would vanish like smoke. It was like even heaven and earth could not tolerate Xiao Chun standing alone. Xiao Qin's long hair fluttered in the wind, revealing the blue strip of cloth tied around his forehead. Xiao Chun gently tugged on it, and the blue strip of cloth immediately flew with the wind, floating high in the sky. The scarlet throne mark on Xiao Qin's forehead flickered with a red light. The state of massacre in the throne was no longer suppressed. It was unleashed without restraint. As the red light spread out, a powerful aura gathered behind Xiao Chun as well, the aura of massacre. The endless murderous intent was like a torrential flood, overflowing in all directions. With just one glance, it made one's heart palpitate. All sorts of negative emotions, massacre, death, berserk, exploded in one's mind. How painful! What kind of state of massacre is this? How can one cultivate killing qi to such a level? I don't even dare to look at it, the cultivators on the wind cloud platform exclaimed. Bang! With the obstruction of the viscous red light, Sima Lingxuan's aura stopped 100 meters in front of Xiao Chun with a bang, unable to advance any further. A loud sound rang out like 2 mountains crashing into each other. The sky shook, and the entire wind cloud platform trembled. This is not enough. Far from enough. Xiao Qin's gaze sank, and he suddenly took a step forward. Then, he unleashed his state of thunder. Thunder clouds covered the sky above, and an eternal and immortal will spread out. This was the immortal state of thunder that Xiao Chun comprehended from Thunder Emperor Valley. The state of massacre from the ancient throne that slaughtered 100,000 demons, and the immortal state that Thunder King Sang Mu inherited. These two states that surpassed the limits merged in that instant. How could they fear the state of kingship of the mundane world? Xiao Qin's aura soared several times over. As he took a step forward, he instantly forced back Sima Lingxuan's aura of kingship. The sound of mountains crumbling resounded endlessly. Long, sinister cracks spread out on the wind cloud platform. Before the fight even started, the vast wind cloud platform had already shattered into pieces, leaving it in a sorry state. Sima Lingxian dared to say that he could defeat me in 10 moves, insulting me. However, I, Xiao Chun, have never lost to someone of the same generation since I became famous in the Sky Dome realm. Heaven was unfair. preventing Xiao Chun from condensing a martial spirit at the age of 16. If he had another 16 years, he would not even care about this Sima Lingxian. Even so, the current Xiao Chun was not someone that Sima Lingxian could humiliate. A strong wind blew, and a scarlet light spread out. Xiao Chun remained expressionless as he said in a cold voice, "Make your move. Let me see how you are going to defeat me in 10 moves. I really want to know who is the arrogant one here." At this moment, Xiao Chen's aura shattered Sima Lingxuan's aura. He no longer had the insufferably arrogant attitude he had earlier. When Xiao Chen's cold voice reached Sima Lingxuan's ears, it made him feel somewhat uncomfortable. Right now, Xiao Chen's attitude was slightly higher than Sima Lingxuan's. When he spoke, he gave Sima Lingxian a feeling of looking down on him. "Since you want to be defeated that badly, I will grant your wish." Sima Lingxian snorted coldly and gently waved his right hand. The plain sword stuck in the wind cloud platform immediately came out of its scabbard. Sima Lingxian leaped into the air and grabbed the sword. Then he shouted, "First sword strike, sovereign descending to the 9 heavens, wind and cloud arise." With the support of the sword intent, the 1-meter-long sword hummed endlessly. When Sima Lingxian swung his sword, it was like he was the son of heaven descending from heaven. Wind and clouds gathered under his feet. In that instant, he rode the wind and clouds. Mountains, rivers, cities, and villages for thousands of kilometers around. All the living things in the world materialized the state of a sovereign descending to the 9 heavens. One sword raised wind and clouds, materializing the state of a sovereign. Riding the wind and clouds, he stood on mountains and rivers. Sword momentum, state, and sword intent are all perfect and flawless. This sword strike is completed in one breath, with no flaws at all. When Lu Xiaoyun, who was in the spectator stands, saw this sword strike, he revealed an expression of admiration. He praised it from the bottom of his heart. "Break!" Xiao Chen's figure flickered, and he drew his saber. Purple and red lights intersected on the saber as he swung his saber in extremely fast speed. Xiao Chun struck the place where the wind and clouds gathered. A saber light flashed, and the wind and clouds split in half. The wind was wind, and the clouds were clouds. The state of a sovereign for thousands of kilometers around vanished into thin air. All this happened in an instant. Right after Lu Xiaoyan spoke, Xiao Chun cleanly broke this move. Lu Xiaoyan opened his mouth, but could not say anything. His eyes sparkled as he said in astonishment, "The sword raises wind and clouds, materializing mountains and rivers for thousands of kilometers around. Then there's the state of a sovereign descending to the world. As long as one breaks the wind and clouds, the state of a sovereign descending to the world will cease to exist. Why did I not think of that?" The drifting snow sword sect's first elder shook his head and said, "That won't do. Even if you thought of it, you would not be able to do it so quickly or be so decisive. However, Sima Lingxuan's wind and clouds are already very close together. How did he find the point of fusion and then separate the wind and clouds? This is really strange." With his sword move broken, Sima Lingxian circled around and retreated 100 meters. Then, he looked cautiously at Xiao Chun. Who knew? Xiao Chun did not chase after him. He held his saber with one hand and looked calmly at Sima Lingxian. He said, "Just make your move. I will break every move you make. I will not chase after you. I want to see how you will defeat me in 10 moves." What a fellow! Sima Lingxian is already arrogant enough. Unexpectedly, this Xiao Chun is even more confident than him, breaking every move he makes. Even after breaking, he does not follow up with another attack. It looks like Sima Lingxuan's attitude has really angered Xiao Chun. Haha, it has probably been many years since someone spoke to Sima Lingxian like this. Interesting, very interesting. Chapter 602. The moment Xiao Chun spoke, a huge commotion broke out in the crowd. This was even more shocking than Sima Lingxuan's declaration of defeating his opponent in 10 moves. Everyone had their own pride. Xiao Chun looked calm and indifferent. However, deep in his heart was a pride that no one knew about. He would not allow anyone to profane it. Good, good, good. Sima Lingxian said good 3 times in a row. With each word, his expression turned more sullen. A murderous intent even appeared in his eyes. Heart of a king, sword illuminating the world. Sima Lingxian did not say anything else. He immediately sent out a second sword strike. The sword flickered with a bright light, immediately filling the arena with light. It was like this sword illuminated the world. Sima Lingxian, who was floating in the air, seemed to have a heart burning in his chest. Even through his clothes and flesh, a fiery red light could be seen leaping about. When Xianyuan Zhantian saw this sword strike, he immediately revealed an expression of extreme shock. He said, "He is burning the heart of a king." This is a technique that can only be grasped after reaching great perfection in the state of kingship. The might of this sword strike has increased by at least 3 times. Let's see how you break it. Sima Lingxian shouted ferociously. His figure flashed, and he instantly arrived before Xiao Chun. There was nothing strange about this sword strike. It simply used the world as its faith and burned the heart of a king to attack the enemy. Aside from receiving it head-on, there was no way to break it. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense found the weakest spot in his opponent's sword strike. Then, he immediately executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations. His body trembled and split into 9. The 9 figures merged 2 states, and each sent out a saber strike. Every saber strike landed on the weakest spot of the sword strike. Although it was said to be weak, that was only relative. The force at the weakest spot could easily shatter a small mountain. Bang, bang, bang. The sword might was too strong. Every one of Xiao Chen's clones could not block it for even a moment before they shattered into pieces. However, when Sima Lingxian broke the 8th clone, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He discovered that the might of this sword had decreased by half without him realizing it. You discovered it as well, right? However, it is too late. Break! Xiao Chen's main body shouted. The crystalline purple essence in his body turned into a sharp saber light. Infused with his 60% comprehended saber intent, he chopped at the weakest spot. Boom! When the energy shot out, it created an intense shock wave. Everyone saw Sima Lingxuan's body quickly hit the shock wave. He spun a few times in the air before he stabilized himself. However, Xiao Chun did not move at all. Only the terrifying red glow around him and the immortal state of thunder above him intertwined with each other, making his handsome face look extremely demonic. Sima Lingxian did not believe it. He executed the later moves of the Son of Heaven's sword technique to their limits. The king's heart in his chest burned even more ferociously. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense circulated, breaking the other party's sword techniques one by one. He really could not find any flaws. Xiao Chun directly used the 4-season saber technique to clash with his opponent, using force to break his opponent's saber technique. The 6th move has been broken. There are only 4 moves left. The 7th move has also been broken. There are only 3 moves left. The 8th move has also been broken. There are only 2 moves left. The 9th move has been broken. There's only 1 more move left. The cultivators and the spectator stands watched excitedly. If Xiao Chun really did as he said and let Sima Lingxian attack, Xiao Chun would not chase after him or take the initiative to attack. He only cared about breaking the sword. They wanted to see what gave Sima Lingxian the confidence to say that he could defeat Xiao Chun in 10 moves. 10th sword technique, crossing 1,000 peaks. Sima Lingxuan's expression turned terrifyingly sullen. He burned all the remaining quintessence in his body and executed the 9th move of the Son of Heaven's sword technique. Thousands of mountains appeared in the air. Sima Lingxian infused them into his sword technique, making the might of this sword technique incredibly heavy. Everywhere the sword passed, pitch-black cracks appeared in space. When a sword moved diagonally, a sword light exploded before it. In an instant, it seemed like thousands of towering mountains pressed down on Xiao Chun, covering the sky and covering the sun. Moonlight like frost, flowing water hurts. Beauty grows old. Where can one find one's home? In the face of danger, Xiao Chun did not panic. He calmly executed the four-season saber technique's fourth move, Grieving Frost. Strands of frost silently seeped into the towering mountains. The faint saber intent made it almost impossible to detect anything strange. When Sima Lingxian saw the situation, the sullen expression on his face disappeared. He laughed loudly and said, "The mountains press down on you. Let's see where you can hide." Xiao Chun withdrew his saber and stood upright. He said indifferently, "Why the need to hide? Kassier, Kassier." Suddenly, crunching sounds came from all the mountains in the sky. The mysterious phenomenon that Sima Lingxian materialized broke from the inside out. It turned into sand and pebbles flying everywhere, scattering with the wind and returning to nothing. How can it be like this? Sima Lingxuan's expression changed slightly in disbelief. The white-robed Xiao Chun held the lunar shadow saber in his hand as he pointed it at his opponent. Under the illumination of the light, he said calmly, "The 10 moves are over. I'm standing here. How are you going to defeat me? I only ask you, who is the one speaking such arrogant words? One can be arrogant, but one must never be conceited. Since you spoke rudely and considered everyone beneath you, I do not mind ruthlessly slapping your face in front of everyone. Who cares if you're a noble clan disciple or the top genius of the great Jin nation?" The many cultivators in the spectator stands all had incredulous expressions on their faces. They had not expected Xiao Chun to break his opponent's 10 moves. This time, Sima Lingxian was truly embarrassed. The vast wind cloud platform was riddled with thousands of holes. At this moment, it was a complete mess. Originally, the wind cloud platform had an automatic repair function. Otherwise, it would not be in such a dilapidated state. However, when the two fought, they were simply too strong. The saber intent and sword intent contained in their martial techniques lingered for a long time. There was no way for the wind cloud platform to repair itself properly. However, Sima Lingxuan's heart was even more disordered than this dilapidated wind cloud platform. He had not expected Xiao Chun to be so strong. Xiao Chun's strength, martial techniques, states, and techniques did not lose to him at all. Damn it, I did not lose. The one who lost is you. After 10 moves, Sima Lingxian did not admit defeat like he said he would. He had a crazed expression as he circulated his essence. Then, he charged over with a ferocious aura. Scram! This time, Xiao Chun took the initiative to attack. The solidified essence in his body covered every acupoint, bone marrow, and blood in his body. In that instant, Xiao Chun's entire body gave off a dazzling purple light. Even his pitch-black eyes turned a deep purple, flickering with electricity. Bang! Sima Lingxian no longer had any technique. His attack was full of openings. Xiao Chun grasped the saber with both hands and swept it across. Amid the dazzling purple light, he used absolute force to knock his opponent off the wind cloud platform. Bang! Xiao Chun's saber strike knocked back the insufferably strong Sima Lingxian. He crashed through the wind cloud barrier and flew out. A Sima clan's superior grade, martial monarch's figure flashed over in an instant. He caught Sima Lingxian just before he crashed into the ground, preventing him from ending up in a sorry state like Bai Qi and saving his last bit of face. One should not boast. Even Sima Lingxian is no exception. If he was careless, he would have been slapped in the face in front of everyone. The newcomers these days are too horrifying. Even Sima Lingxian fell. The last contestant of the 10 great sects and 8 noble clans is gone. All the geniuses of the great Jin nation have fallen. Currently, only Xiao Chun and Chu Chaoyan are left. I wonder where these two people came from. I have never heard of them before. The moment they appeared, they caused such a huge commotion. This is unbelievable. What is even more unbelievable is yet to come. These two people are actually contestants from the great Qi nation. Their sects are probably laughing even in their dreams. This 5-nation youth competition had brought too many surprises to the crowd. Even someone as strong as Sima Lingxian was defeated before he could even make it to the final round. The impact of this was indescribable. Every generation had its own geniuses. Each wave was taller than the one before. In this great age of cultivators, anything could happen. This made everyone sigh and sigh endlessly. On the dilapidated wind cloud platform, Xiao Chun, whose entire body flickered with a purple light, sheathed his saber. The light vanished, and his strong aura vanished. His entire being returned to ordinary. The scarlet throne mark on Xiao Chen's forehead gave his delicate face a sinister and tyrannical aura after he removed the blue strip of cloth. This was very different from how he usually looked. When the other half-step martial monarchs, Jiang Qi, saw Xiao Chun after Xiao Chun walked off the wind cloud platform, his heart trembled. Her heart trembled, and the radiant smile on her face vanished. Unexpectedly, she could not speak to Xiao Chun calmly. When Xiao Chun saw the expressions of the surrounding people, he startled to his senses. He took out another blue strip of cloth from the universe ring and tied it around his forehead, covering up the scarlet throne mark. Xiao Chen's demonic and tyrannical aura immediately vanished. He turned back into the calm and indifferent white-robed bladesman Xiao Chun. Jiang Qi did not know what to say for a while. After thinking for a while, he said, "Xiao Chun, you should rest first." When Murong Chong, Yun Kursin, and the others looked at Xiao Chun, they were all shocked. Although they had guessed that Xiao Chun was strong, they had not expected him to be this strong. Sima Lingxian, whom they did not even dare to look at directly, lost to Xiao Chun in such a manner. He had been ruthlessly slapped in the face before everyone. When Xiao Chun saw everyone's expressions, he sighed silently to himself. No matter what, it is fine as long as I remain the same. Even if I step onto the great Tao in the future and look down on everyone, I will still walk the world with reverence in my heart. On the platform, Dragon Sealing City Lord, Zhong Liang, picked up Sima Lingshuan's card and waved it casually. A faint flame flared up on the card, and it quickly turned into ashes, vanishing into the air. Only 2 cards remained on the table. One had Xiao Chen's name on it, and the other had Chu Qian's name on it. Zhong Liang said softly, "There are really many surprises. What do you all think?" When the old man on Zhong Liang's right heard this, he smiled and said, "Xiao Chun versus Chu Qian. This is the final match. The suspense will last until the end." Indeed, who could have imagined that this Xiao Chen state of massacre is only a fine line away from the will of massacre? Furthermore, his state of thunder contains the immortal attribute. The most horrifying thing is that his essence has completely solidified. He has not even reached peak half-step martial monarch, and his essence can already solidify. I wonder what fortuitous encounter this little fellow had. If he advanced to martial monarch, the quintessence that he refined would make several of the older generation pale in comparison.